Y'all, welcome into my first ever Bridgerton Live. We are going to be talking about season 3, part 1 with the Bridgerton expert herself, Naya, and of course the lovely Melissa. Okay, how y'all feeling tonight?
Good, excited.
Good. Excited. Excited for the conversation.
The way the group chat has been like firing off to specifically talk about this,
Oh,
I'm like,
please.
I have to go live. Like, we have to go live. We got to figure this out because all of this characters and voice notes is not gonna cut it. We gonna have
It's
to
not
just
gonna do
like hash it out. It's very real thoughts and feelings because Bridgerton is one of those ones.
Yes.
Who wants to start with how they feel about this first half of the third season, the POLIN era?
I hate that ship name. I'm like, can we call them
Sounds like
something else?
allergies.
Yes. And especially having allergies for the last week and a half, don't want to hear it pollen ever again. Um, I will start. I guess for me, it's simple. I was not that excited about it, and then because I wanted to see Kate and Anthony, and then I heard they were only going to be in the first episode. I was like, well, damn, there goes that. But I honestly didn't see it for Penelope and Colin. I was just like, I don't feel like they did a really good job, at least in the way I remember season 1 and 2. I didn't feel like they did a really good job of investing us in Colin per se. I always liked Penelope. I thought she was a great character. But Colin, I was just like, I could care less about you. I want to see Benedict. I want to see any of the other brothers. But I watched that first episode and I was like, wait a minute. I think they got me. And then I finished the 4 episodes. Let's just say I've rewatched it at least 5 times. And I literally have so much work to do. And in the last 4 days, 5 days, I've watched it 4 or 5 times. So that's how I feel about that.
So you're here for it. You're totally here
I
for
am
it.
here. I'm
Naya.
seated.
High praise. High praise. Um, yes. So I would have to agree. Initial first thoughts coming into season three, I was not thrilled that they chose to make Penelope and Collins the next one because based off of the order of the books, Benedict's would have been the third one. So their
Okay.
choice to expedite Penelope and Collins, this was at the end of season two when they announced really soon after the episodes came out of season two that this was going to be the next one, and I was like, mm, okay, like like Melissa, I wasn't invested, and I don't think we were the only ones. It just Penelope and Colin's dynamic is not something that stands out in terms of romance. And this is me and present time watching season one and season two.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't invested. I think the only reason why I was going to be seated for season three was to see the Kate and Anthony crumbs and because it's Bridgerton. So I'm just a girl. I'm a romance girly at heart. So I was going to be seated no matter what. But was I jumping up and down for Colin and Penelope? No. For really the reasons that Melissa said, I didn't feel invested in Colin's character. I always liked Penelope, even though she has her faults. But Colin, as the sibling that you're going to follow at some point, his love story, I wasn't jumping up and down, even though I have read their book. So leading up to season three, my excitement builded upon just the promotion. I feel like they promoted the season really well from what I've read from interviews, from the leads and the showrunner. I was getting more and more excited about it.
Mm.
Watching the first part of season three, I have to say it's got crack in it for me. I have rewatched it probably over 10 times at this point, if I can count. And I feel like everything they needed to do for me when it came to if Penelope and Colin was going to be the love story this season, I think they avoided certain pitfalls that they could have easily made
Yeah.
with their love story. And to me, I'm invested, and I feel like I know Colin a lot more as a character than I really ever gave credence to those first 2 seasons. I think the actors playing Penelope and Colin, certain choices were made this first half that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And to me, this is my honest opinion, and we have not seen part two yet, but I don't think it's going to change. This is probably my favorite season thus far, as a whole. And I don't believe I can say that about seasons one and two.
Interesting.
That is high praise coming from me. Let's just say it is high praise.
Interesting. So you guys know
Oh
a
no.
gist of what I think, because we like live basically voice note each other while we're watching stuff. Even though Naya was like, Erica, stop, just watch it and we'll come back and talk about it. And I'm like losing my shit all the way through from episode 1 to 4. I think I came into this season excited to be back in Bridgerton world, not necessarily excited about the couples that they were going to be pushing or making the centerpiece. I think that Penelope is a very interesting character. I think that the Bridgerton boys get on my damn nerves and they take a lot. They have to grow on you like a fungus. So I really wasn't
Correct.
just like too concerned about Colin and what he had going on. But I was excited to come back into the Bridgerton world. And it's interesting that you're saying that this is like the favorite season for you, because I recently, like, shout out to Shanoa and shout out to Cindrica. We were up in the middle of the night. I was live on my personal channel and I was watching it, and they just happened to pop in. And I'm like, y'all want to watch it with me? Because they had never watched it. So they started watching it. And I really feel like, but I haven't rewatched season 2. I really feel like season 1 might be my GOAT. And I feel bad kind of in looking at how I kind of look at season 3, because I feel like they suffer from being the third story. I think that if they weren't third, then this would have stood up a little bit better. But having experienced what we've experienced in seasons 1 and season 2, there's just certain things that happen that I don't love, and I didn't feel the same just intense like longing at various points, and the moments that like really pulled me in, that like captivated me when I first like started to fall in love with the series and what was happening in season 1. And then when Anthony is winning me over in season 2, I did not actually feel any of those things in season 3. I'm still rooting for Penelope and I want her to get her love and all of that jazz. But even that's a little bit complicated because of the context of what's going on there. I think the biggest issue that I have with season 3 is that I don't think that Colin worked hard enough. I don't think that he suffered, and I don't think that he worked hard enough for Penelope. So the first 4 episodes, in addition to me not getting the like close calls that I was expecting, or I don't even know what I was expecting. I just was expecting more. I remember very vividly in seasons 1 and season 2, and then damn sure in Queen Charlotte, very specific moments where like the hair were raising my own damn arm, and it's like, he don't even love me. He ain't talking to me. He ain't brushing past me, but I could feel what was happening on screen. And I didn't have that this season, or at least in this part, up until the very end in the carriage. Like the carriage, it was almost like all of those things that I was looking for was packed into this one moment. But I wish we would have had a better build up. And then also, again, I wish that Colin would have had to work and suffer a little bit more. So those are my like overall thoughts, and we can definitely go into it. But this is definitely not my favorite season. I don't think it's a bad season at all. I think that part of it is also suffering because we know who Lady Whistledown is now, so we don't also have that we knew. We kind of got an idea in mid season 2, but like in the main character also being Lady Whistledown, and that kind of, I think, has affected the dynamic and how certain things are playing out, and when she chooses to use the voice for certain things. It just doesn't have a bunch of the things that was working for the series before working now. And I was only able to identify that, I think, upon my second watch recently, because in the first watch, I just felt like certain things weren't clicking. It's still Bridgerton. It's still the world. It's still the Regency era. It's still really great dialogues and really great quips and really great moments. But I am not as moved as I have been previously.
That's fair. It's a good jumping off point because I do have my thoughts about that because I've seen. I'm gonna let Melissa jump in, but just to end it, I have seen a lot of those same sentiments. It's been mixed on social media, but a good portion feel that same way, and I kind of have my thoughts to kind of address that from my point of view, based off of what I've had to check myself, and I've had to read certain things, and certain things have clicked for me, and then even rewatching, I have my own feelings around it. So, jumping to you, Melissa. Your thoughts about that.
I mean, you raised all the most valid points. There were less of those moments that's true because like I still remember season 1 and season 2 and all those close calls, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I need
Yeah.
somebody to do that to me, make me feel that uncomfortable. I haven't felt that uncomfortable in a long time, but in a good way. I felt uncomfortable,
Yes.
just not in a good uncomfortable, like, ooh, what's happening here? I'm not sure, but I kind of
Yeah.
like it. Um, but I think that I don't know. I feel like she did make him suffer. I think he was just very quiet about it. And in his own subtle trying to be cool way, which is like what
Mm-hmm.
he was trying to be different. He said it and like I miss you in the like when he noticed they didn't fall back into their normal rhythm of like who they were and like how she was like just walking giving him short responses and walking away. And
Yeah.
like I think in her not writing back to him, I think he felt that all summer. Like I think he was sitting with that all summer. Like, why didn't she write back to me? What happened? Like, what's going on with my Penelope, right? And then he comes back and she's not that excited to see him, and she kind of just like gives him short answers, and then she confronts him. I'm like, girl, you bold, because in that time you didn't just say things like how you feeling. You have to dance around it, and she was just like, let me straight up tell
Twice.
you, you said
Yeah.
this, that, and I heard you. Um, but I feel like the reason we didn't get those moments is because Colin was, I feel like it's twofold. I feel like one, he was trying to be a different person. And two, I think it's because he was feeling all of the things and you could see that he was feeling it in the way he would stare at her, the way he would um like check for her and all that stuff. But I think he was afraid, to be honest, because the last time he put his heart out there, it got stomped on, right? So I think he was like, I don't know how she feels about me, so I'm gonna try to get that idea from her on in a like casual way, in a like a in a aloof way, the way society expects me to, like just asking her questions, observing her, seeing if she actually takes this man's proposal and stuff like that. So I think that's why we didn't get those moments. But I think in the second half, now that he has confidence and that she feels the same way, I think we're gonna get a very, very different version of Colin.
Which kind of annoys me. I know we're going to get a different version of him, but it's like you're waiting for the validation from her. And I feel like maybe it's my trauma speaking. I don't know. But I think part of the crack that I love about Bridgerton is like when the men crash out and they not sure, but they just crash out because they just love you so much and they don't know what to do with those feelings anymore. And maybe it's because I feel like I haven't gotten that moment and I kind of feel robbed a little bit in that way. We do have the moments of him watching her, but like again this morning I rewatched season 1 and the way that the Duke was looking at Daphne's ass, I was like, Colin, these looks don't mean that I'm paying you dust for these looks because they don't stand up to like the searing piercingness that was that. And I could be wrong to like compare them, but that's definitely something that's come up for me, and it's really pushing me of like, yeah, he didn't work hard enough. I do agree that like the letters could have, like her not responding could have hit him, but I think the writing choice was interesting for him to have all that stuff internally. The second, I guess, toxic thing that I'm attracted to within the series again is like the crash out, but then you get to see more profession. He doesn't really have that. So even if we didn't watch him have certain moments in dialogue that was a little bit more direct, specifically with Penelope, they introduced the journal when she read the journal, I think in episode 2, 1 or 2, whatever. Why aren't we getting moments where we get to see him journaling about this? Like, aside from the sex stream, we don't actually get to see him trying to process any of the feelings that are coming up for him about Penelope. So I don't know that you're really grappling with it. I know that you're jealous, which men get jealous. That's not telling me nothing. I have yet to see the unrequited love that we got to see with the other two men, or that they thought was unrequited, that was just tearing them up. And then that compels them so heavily forward to like risk it all, if you will, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Oh, me? Oh, are you looking to?
No, jump in there. I'm just throwing
Oh,
it out
okay,
there.
okay.
And I haven't
Um,
rewatched season 2. I wish I would have got a chance to rewatch season 2 as well, because when I tell you that Anthony's ass, I probably cared less about Anthony going into season 2 than I do about Colin coming into season 3. And the way that man turned me around, I don't
mhm.
understand. But yeah.
I will say they did a lot more to make us understand Anthony in the second season. Anthony than in the second season than they've done to help us understand Colin.
Oh, can I add this
Mm.
before you jump in, Naya? Because I think this is going to be a really, you can address this. I think you would probably be the perfect person to address this.
Okay.
Also, y'all are regurgitating storylines for me. Why does he got to be raking around town? Can he have another goddamn struggle? Like, there's all of them got to be out here for bitches. Like, it don't even feel real for it to be Colin. So I think I was also grappling with like the biggest issue is his whole big ass speech about go out into the world and drop people expecting you to be something so that you can really be yourself, but then you come back and just put the damn mask back on. That to me feels like a bigger priority for this character than you actually like figuring out the whole thing around love or whatever. And you literally just like copied and paste Anthony's fucking story. I'm gonna need y'all to give me something else because I don't even believe it with him.
Oof, okay. So I'm gonna address that. So this whole sentiment about him essentially trying to be like Anthony, even like Benedict, in the sense of being very sexually just all over the place, very much a trollop, a rake, if you will. That being the thing that he feels like he needs to step into in order to be in society as an eligible bachelor. And it feels authentic, it looks authentic. That's the point. It's meant to feel that way. You're never supposed to be convinced that this character is supposed to be this because that's never what we've seen from him. But I think certain circumstances within 1 and 2 got him to a place at the end of season 2, which I was on that boy's head. Him speaking about Penelope in the way that he did, and I was very triggered by it because there's a lot of elements to it. But I've had to relook at that because I think that moment is very telling about where he goes in that in between period of the summer and how he comes back. Because that is when he fully indoctrinates himself as one of the fellas. That when he talks about her in that way of like, I would never ever court her, that is when he fully becomes like he puts this mask on of trying to be this Casanova like everyone else. And I feel like that choice to make him come back into society, and that's immediately what he puts on, like that is what he expects us to believe, but he don't really believe it. And it's not until Lady Whistledown clocks him about it at the end of episode 1 that you see that it's he doesn't believe it either, he doesn't want it either. So I feel like that choice was, I feel like, the right way to introduce his arc. And I really feel like it's full circle because I feel like who he really is he is sensitive. He is the gentle natured one. He is the one that's the middle sibling that is overlooked. And there are certain moments with his family where he isn't necessarily taken as serious. And I think this idea of him having to put on a mask, but then you see as he interacts with Penelope even more and more in this first part, even though he's trying to help her find a suitor, it quickly dissolves because as he's spending more time with her, he starts to recalibrate back to himself. And I think that's very interesting. The more and more you see them interact, and the more obviously his feelings start to awaken, I think he is himself in that carriage scene, probably the most we've ever seen him. He's the most honest. He's the most vulnerable. There's no mask. There's no, pretending. Him on his knees in front of Penelope being like, this is how I've been feeling, to me is himself. And I feel like his arc in this first part for me, it's allowed me to appreciate his journey a little bit more, and why maybe I wasn't connecting to him as much in seasons 1 and 2, which I think are still valid. But I don't know. I feel like with the span of these 4 episodes, I understood his journey a lot more than I ever have in the past 2 seasons. And I think when it comes to your point, and this has been a point that's universal, there's been a lot of people who have felt like, I'm not really feeling that same feeling that I got watching Simon and Daphne, or I'm not feeling that same thing that I felt with Kate and Anthony, or even Queen Charlotte, which I want to put Queen Charlotte away just because they're specifically a spin-off. This is before this Bridgerton universe, and to be fair, I want to be able to compare the 2 that we've seen that are specifically in the family of these Bridgertons, like in this universe of the individual love stories with the siblings. Because Queen Charlotte is just I feel like it's not even fair to even bring that into question. So I want to like specifically talk about the first two seasons. And I understand. I definitely get it, but I think there is this notion of feeling the need to compare everything. And I think every one of these seasons, as far as however they go, they have to stand alone. So if it's about preference and about what you prefer and like what really gets you going, that's fair. But I think some of the criticism I've seen, it kind of trickles into, actors' performances and like, well, I just don't
Oh,
like Colin and Penelope because they're not given as much as Kate and Anthony. That's where I'm like,
I
all
don't agree
right.
with that. I don't agree with that at
and
all.
and that's not your take, but that your take is like about the preference, like about how I'm
And
feeling
I
watching
think
it,
it's a,
rather than it
yeah.
become instead of it becoming about a bunch of other things, which is what becomes the conversation rather than us sticking on, okay, what are these feelings like, why isn't this hitting for you? And I think your points are very valid, and I've seen those as well.
I think mine are also
So in
tied to
terms,
writing choices too. If I can add additionally, because even I think that
yeah.
you brilliantly pointed out like that is what these men do, similar to like what we see these women go through every season. That is the women's job, and that's what it is. And the men do whatever the hell they want. They could come with their little dirty penises, and they find a wife when it's time for them to come into society. So okay, cool. I think the part that I'm missing, which I love that for you that you're able to really connect with him and understand his story, but I feel like it's a copy paste because there is, to me, there's not enough specificity. So if he is going to be going to these brothels, then did he pull something from his travels that he just loves to experience sex in this particular way because he went to this place and it was amazing there? Like we have the journal about the women that he didn't connect to and have intimacy with. So like how is that actually showing up aside from just the like, oh, you might see me again tomorrow? I don't know. I felt like some things they didn't commit enough to, and then they didn't provide enough specificity for me to actually feel like this was a fully well thought out version of like Colin experiencing what the men in this town particularly will do from his perspective. And he should, to me, have a different coloring because he's the son that went off and saw a bunch of things and did a bunch of things and like traveled the world.
Hmm. So I think to answer the writing portion, so I know you guys haven't read the books. I've read this particular book, and the writing portion for him, like him being a writer, is a very big thing in the book. So I think that is something that I've read will be touched on in that second part, which is why
Ah,
it's hard because I feel like also I have a very huge problem with the release model because I feel like I was talking to my best friend and she watched it and she was like, yeah, something's just not, it's not connecting for me. It just feels really disjointed. Like I feel like there's something, the pacing is off. And I'm like, she's like, maybe it's just because of the way that it's cut up. And I'm like, I feel like that is also playing into how people are like really taking the season in because it's
mm,
hard to say certain things about development and where these characters are going to go if we only have one sector of it. And I think there are two stories and one in the season, which is different from the other two seasons. Like this part, the way that they broke it up, they're engaged at this point. So
yeah.
going into part two, there is no discussion about this will they, won't they? Are they going to get together? Are they not? That we got from season two, which I'm going to talk about, get into my issues with season two. But so, and season in part two, we are specifically getting straight to the Lady Whistledown content. Hit Colin's feelings about it when it comes out. I think his writing over the summer and what Penelope read just a little bit of, that is going to become a thing because it was such a big thing in the books. So I think that might
Mm.
change. That might change your opinion of that at the end. It's hard to give, even for me, full rounded expectations when we just only have one portion. And for me, so when specifically people talk about the comparison between Kate and Anthony and Colin and Penelope, I love Kate and Anthony, and I was very excited for their season. I was so happy they made the choice to make Kate a brown woman, a Indian woman. I was so happy they made the choice to make her family Indian women. Like it was such a big thing when Simone Ashley, who plays Kate Sharma, was casted. I was so excited. I read the books and I was like, this is going to be good because I remember seeing Simone Ashley on Sex Education, and we already know the actor who plays Anthony. So I was very excited watching season two, I think obviously when you watch it, you're so overwhelmed by everything. Kate and Anthony's chemistry was insanity. Like that just goes down in the books. Like they're unhinged, like in the best way. So I couldn't necessarily process certain conversations that were happening with people who were very disappointed in the way that they wrote season two. Because there was also these conversations about the actress who plays Edwina, which is Kate's sister, and there was like this really nasty pitting these two brown women against each other that I just was not here for. So I think I was more focused on those conversations and why does Kate have to be the villain or Edwina has to be the villain? Like why is this the conversation that I couldn't really listen to the noise of we're not really rocking with this season because they didn't write it well. So for me, I didn't clock that until I saw the promotion for season three and the care that has gone into this season that I was like, oh yeah, I fear those voices were right. Because to me, development wise, as beautiful as Kate and Anthony's love story is, I cannot say I think of Kate and Anthony in season two and can say that I fell in love with their love story, falling in love. Because to me, the way that they chose to write season two, I think took away from their actual falling in love. There were things that were taken out from the books that, yes, it's an adaptation, but they did a disservice to the act of Kate and Anthony actually bonding and falling in love for me in a way that really should have been given the space. There was that Featherington storyline that really took away from it, that was a writer's choice. Also, the fact that they did not give us Kate and Anthony until the 20 minutes, 15 minutes left of episode 8. And I kid you not, they did not give us Kate and Anthony until the very end of season 2. And while I can appreciate these close call moments and the heavy breathing and the unhinged speeches from Anthony and the looks and the intensity, to me, where is that going? And I never felt like we got to a place where, okay, this is going to hit a certain peak and then we can develop some more stuff from this. They never had the chance to get together and then more conflicts arise because you're together now. So then what? In the books, they were married in the middle of they had to get married in the middle of the books. They completely took that out because they made it about this love triangle where he carries on this sham of an engagement to her sister up until episode 5. And that made Edwina look like the bad guy, which that's not even the story here. So while I get that they wanted to focus on the eldest sibling trauma, they completely took out the parental trauma for Kate. I didn't feel like Kate got any development with the fact that she's also lost her mother and her father. And they didn't give any development to the mother, to Mary Sharma, and really Edwina outside the love triangle. So I feel like there was a lot of pitfalls that season 2 fell into that I'm disappointed that they didn't get the just due that I feel like they should have. So that's why when people are mad that you only see Kate and Anthony for like 5 minutes in season 3, well, it's not their season anymore. That was always part of the deal. Their season's done. So if people are feeling underwhelmed because of Anthony, it's unfair, the criticisms that I've seen, to put that on the main love story that's happening because I feel like the writing failed to do that in season 2. So you're just looking for any happy crumbs you can get from Kate and Anthony because their love story was pain and strife all through season 2. Yes, it was intense and it made the hairs raise on your arm, but I was stressed that whole season. Like I don't feel like we got any rest. And I just feel like with this season, it was a breath of fresh air to have it be a cutoff point. Colin, he is literally fighting in the dark, swinging at himself for episodes 3 and 4 until it clicks. He gets it. He tells her how he feels. They have the moment. I'm marrying you, period. And then we can cut that off. I don't have to worry about the will they, won't they at the second half. So that to me is already making season 3 better in terms of as a whole, story-wise, as opposed to season 2. And I love Kate and Anthony, but I feel like Kate and Anthony's chemistry carried season 2, not specifically the development of their love story. And that's just for me, reading the books, my expectations going into it, and sort of what they just didn't make space for in season 2. So that's like my whole, like, in terms of season 3 being a more well-rounded season for me in terms of the development of the love story going on. And because we already know Penelope and Colin, there's not a lot of ground to make up there. That's why, to me, I have a different outlook of yes, couples can make me feel like this, oh my God, like this is unhinged, this is crazy, which is, yes, what Simon, Daphne, and Kate and Anthony gave me, but also at what cost? Like, I feel like there wasn't a lot of space to breathe in those seasons where this feels like light and in certain instances. And yes, it's stressful, but I feel like there's this rom-com element. And I just feel like it's easier for me to take in certain things with this season that the other two seasons, I was just like, oh my God, like, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? So that was a lot. Sorry, I was talking a lot.
You good.
I want Melissa to say certain things.
You're
I wanted to get it off my chest in sort of terms of season 2, because I really feel strongly that season 2, to me, I don't want to say a disappointment, but to me, the way that it was executed, I think coming off of that, season 3 to me is a breath of fresh air. Because I just feel like the way that they've chosen to write things, they're good choices and they make sense to me, and it allows me to kind of take things in a little bit more, even though they have 20 different side plots going on, which is probably my only criticism of this season, are the amount of side plots. But in terms of Colin and Penelope's love story and their individual arcs, to me it's giving, but that's me.
Melissa, did you want to
I'm done with that.
anything?
No, I'm done.
No,
I'm done with that.
it's interesting because I hear you, like I hear you, and it's so interesting within our friendship. Me and Naya find ourselves on opposite sides with love and care so very often. And
it works out.
while I recognize like what you're saying is 100% valid, and I understand the perspective, I can see how you arrive there. I think that that's also a negative for me for season 3, because it feels too light. It feels like the conflict that's created is not actual conflict. The conflict with Anthony and Kate, that was real for me. This did not. I'm just like, listen here, Mama Violet, you done already done this already. Get in his ass. Why we got kid gloves on? Cause your boys don't know how to act. Your boys don't be doing what needs to be done. So like little things like that for one. But I think that you're 100% right in the whole, there was not a love story indoctrination when it came to Kate and Anthony, but you did have that with Simon and Daphne. And I feel like that is what made seasons 1 and season 2 work really well, because they were different in that way. You still got the angst, but they were different in that way. I think if I was to not compare to a previous season, but to point out where I feel like there's areas of opportunity specifically with Colin, when I look at Francesca, I think that Francesca is a beautiful amalgamation of Daphne and Eloise. And how she shows up, I'm like, this girl basically is like the baby. She the baby of those two. And she gonna do what she want. And it to me, seeing her, and she has her own personality. She is her own person, her own right. Cool. But it gave her, every time I saw her, it gave like a really interesting call to me to both seasons, in reference to Eloise taking, being front and center last season, and then Daphne in the first season, and then like the continuation of this story, but it's still a little bit different because she got what she got going on. Like she wants to do this because she wants to be free of this house, and that's what that actually looks like. But with Colin, I'm like, you just basically Anthony all over again, without the actual close calls, without the, like, you actually had a leg up on Anthony, and you're giving me less in reference to the story, because all y'all are showing me is him basically shitting on everybody within all the men, and then looking at Penelope. I don't know what I would want, but I feel like it needed to just be more. And I think that you're 100% right in that we are halfway through the season, so we can't fully say, or look at it as compared to other seasons and only looking at half of this season. But I'm kind of like, yeah, it's a little bit too light. And then I'm still going back to like, he didn't suffer enough, or at least I didn't get to see the suffering enough.
Okay, so my response is I forgot. I didn't even respond to that. So coming into this season, I was on Colin's head. Let me reemphasize that. I was on his head after after the last episode of season 2. I was like, I don't see it for you. I don't care what new face you come back with. I don't care that they telling me you the next one up. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I want you, if it's going to be this, or if we gotta suffer through it, you need to be on your knees begging, baby, please. All episodes. Like, I want to see it. If you're not on your knees, it's not. I don't want to see it. I was very much of, I need him to grovel. Those were the words I used multiple times.
He left the previous season talking about something he would never ever in his whole damn life pinky swear y'all could never catch him dead.
Ever. He said it with his, I would never ever dream. And you see how the irony came around full circle. That's how it happens. But yeah, he was talking too loud from his chest at the end of season 2 for me to care. So I went into it with the same notion of like, if you're not groveling, I don't care, because you have way too much ground to make up for. But going to Melissa's point, I think this is the writing choice that for me, it works. It's subtle. I think Colin and Penelope, maybe they're too subtle, and maybe that's a fair critique. Maybe it's too light in the way that it comes together, but for me it works. And I think if they hadn't leaned into the light rom-com elements of the two of them, I feel like they would have fell into a pitfall that I'm glad that they didn't, which is this whole notion that in the books it colors like that he just notices her because she slims down a little bit, because her appearance changes just a little bit, and that's how he clues in. It's not about the fact that there's been distance between the two of them over the summer. It's not about the fact that he's been missing that presence in his life. It's, I'm coming back. She looks a little bit different. Oh, okay. But she's not paying me no mind. If they would have done that, if I would have had to have visually seen him mention her appearance multiple times in the first half, I would have had to cut it off. Because to me, that would have been a huge disservice and a huge a bad message of this is all it takes. But they didn't do that. He only mentioned her appearance one time, and we kept it moving. So to me, especially like going to Melissa's point, him not getting a response from her over that summer when he was getting it the summer previously, I think that kickstarted it, because I clocked the energy shift in that first episode. Like, really, that last conversation,
he wasn't shook enough for me. He wasn't eating, not sleeping. And I literally like, while we're talking, I question, and I'm like, okay, Erica, you want something, but you need to figure out what it is that you want, because you ain't offering no solutions. I think I want Penelope to at least be able to get her lick back. She ain't get her lick back for me. She ain't have a moment where she could realize that, oh, he actually does like me, but a little bit too little too late. Like, or like make him, like her having a moment of like the trump card for him. Like, even as interesting as the kiss was, her begging because she will die. I was just like, you are that girl. What are we? Yo, mama. Like, I spent so much time ready to fight Portia the whole season, because y'all got her thinking she not a bet. She a bet. And Colin, you're participating in it. You can big her up as a friend in the platonic love and all that kind of stuff. But sir, your actions is also feeding this goofy ass insecurity that she have, and she that girl. So I don't know. Maybe that's it. I need a couple more moments of her being that girl, and that girl over everybody, including Colin's ass.
But you know what? Okay, but I think it is happening. It just might not be as in your face as you would like it to be, as someone who watches things the way that you do, which I think is fair.
Their disrespect be too aggressive for me, Naya, for her shit to not be just as aggressive. She can't come. I know that she a slay. Like, I get it. I have said that she's a bad bitch with the pounds. I said she was a bad bitch with the frumpy frock so that her mama could put her in the green. She been that girl. So, like, y'all ain't got to convince me. I need you to let these hoes know. Like, that's what it is. I need her to get her lick back in this town. And Lady Whistledown ain't it.
Can I also add, when he came back and that first encounter, he didn't know she had heard what he said. So he didn't know he needed to grovel, apologize, or anything.
Right.
Which is worse, Melissa. Which is worse, because we be having those conversations about men figuring out stuff and doing better, not because we told you to, or because we, like, when are you going to have a standard of your own? Like, you're the world traveling Mr. Colin coming back and you think you shitting on everybody. but you can't even recount some wayward stuff that you said. You moving about still thinking that your shit don't stink. Like, maybe that's also part of it. I need, like, for me to fully believe that you're a new person and you this great guy, I needed you to arrive at that at your own and not get checked into it. And then also you got soft checked into it. And then now all of a sudden you get the finger pop her in the damn carriage and everything all good. See, now don't piss me off.
Hold on. I gotta say my piece. I gotta say my piece. And this is gonna be, okay. So going back to my point, I feel like Penelope did have those moments, but Penelope is Penelope. So she, unfortunately, is not going to be a Kate. She's not going to be a Queen Charlotte where it's like, I love to read you down. I'm a lecture you to death, like the heroines of Kate and Queen Charlotte. Like, that's just not who Penelope is. And I just think that's how I color her. Like, she read him for what she could, and she read him twice, actually. She read him as Penelope and as her other mask. So
but even the lady Whistledown was light. Even that was light. Because I was like, oh my God. And then when it said it, I was like, oh, that ain't nothing. Like, she ain't. That's the truth.
But it was just enough to bother him at the end of episode 1. He was bothered. So maybe
see, my little revolutionary ass Naya, I think I'm in a place now where I'm not worried about these being bothered. Like, I need y'all to be shaken to y'all's core. I need you to be.
And that's fair. I think he was. I just feel like, okay, so for me, it's just very subtle to me in a way that I guess I can just, for me, I can see it, and to me it's enough. To me,
okay, Daphne. And could you use Daphne as the reference? I'm not saying go back to Kate, because she's not a Kate. You're right. But even Daphne had all of the like little quick-witted, like she's all meek and mild and like, but she would say something that's like, oh yeah, you thought that you was.
Yeah, but she was also to me. Daphne was also to me. Yeah, she was. It's one thing to be quick-witted and like on your feet and like, yeah, you hit to some stuff. But to me, she had to figure out her stuff. And that was because she was married to Simon. Her falling in love with Simon made her really boss up towards the middle and later half. To me, I don't think she stepped on the scene and was giving me all that fever like Kate. So while I can understand,
even in the love story part of it, though, when they were pretending, she was able to like stand her ground against him, which also helped for me for that build up.
Yeah, but I don't think it. She did, but I mean, I don't know. This is where I don't necessarily compare. I feel like to me, they have to stand alone because I feel like I could go down the rabbit hole all day long. I just feel like based off of, we have gotten to know Penelope over 2 seasons. And to me, what she gave Colin, plus not responding to his, I think that's really what kickstarted it for me, was her not responding to him for a whole summer. So he comes back and yeah, he puts on the mask because naturally, like, you know, whatever disconnect he was feeling over the summer, he's not going to come back to the ton and show that. So you see it's disingenuous, and Penelope is not paying him any mind until she reads him. And unfortunately, yes, he has to be told. But this is a boy who has been emotionally naive and immature for 2 seasons. And, you know, if we're going to compare him to Anthony, I'm going to listen. Erica, I might ruffle your feathers. Yes, we love the Duke, but he was willing. Don't let's not forget, he was willing to die in a duel against her brother so that he did not have to marry her. We can say that wasn't
I'm gonna let you finish.
We can say that it was romantic. You know, like that. Yes, Daphne and Simon's love story, yes, was romantic, and yes, we got there. But he was willing to die before marrying her. So, I mean, is that romantic? And then Kate and Anthony.
But that wasn't about the romance, though. That part wasn't about the romance. So that's why I'm trying to understand what the point is that you're relating it to. Because him wanting to die or being willing to die was one, to go to the death, still honoring her and respecting her and even giving him the chance, because he didn't actually even need to show up for that duel. Shout out to Shanoa and Chandrika, because they were asking while we were watching. It was like, well, why would he even show up? Like, he could just skip town. He's going to show up because he's going to give her brother the opportunity to fight for their honor, because they were put in this this untoward circumstance. So one, he's standing on business about that, and then him being willing to die for it was more so his conviction to get back at his father from beyond the grave. It had nothing to do with her, actually. And even amongst that choice, he was still trying to keep her in mind as best as he could. So that, for me, I don't understand what your one-to-one correlation is, but to go back to Penelope, even if we're not comparing her to other characters, I'm gonna compare her to Penelope from season 2, because you got me loaded up with this argument, and she had way more smoke for Eloise than she had for Colin. So she's capable of it, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, I didn't get, I guess, enough of a vindication of like, girl, this boy maybe unintentionally, huh?
It's not. It's not my. I'm gonna finish it, but it's not my. I'm not trying to correlate it to make a point. I'm just saying I'm just going to your point of like, if we're talking about seasons 1 and 2 and the love stories there, I'm just saying that Colin's conflict in terms of, you're saying like him not coming with enough smoke for Penelope. I feel like there's certain instances in seasons 1 and seasons 2 where Simon and Anthony lost me. Yes, even though, like, yes, Simon, it was a twofold. Like, he, yes, wanted to do right by Daphne, but I think it was more about him getting at his father from the grave more than it was about her. And that is a part of their love story, yes, with Kate and Anthony. Him being so adamant, whether it was, because of his parental trauma and his eldest sibling syndrome or not, him wanting to take her sister all the way to the point of marriage, knowing that he was in love with her sister, to the detriment of Edwina, because it didn't matter if Edwina was going to be ruined or not. He still did it. That is still a part of Kate and Anthony's story, even though it maybe is not a part of them falling in love. But I mean, it is kind of the same. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying. No,
I agree with that.
I'm not saying it's a main point. But
it's not,
I mean,
those things are not necessarily right. They're complicated. It sullies or maybe taints the love story or the cleanness of the love story. But for me, and watching as an audience member, those things are very interesting and give you something to actually engage with. I think that for me, you are creating more evidence to my point of like, Colin didn't actually show who he is, because the Duke, and being willing to die for his little principal trying to get back at his daddy, was a very clear character decision tied to his backstory. Anthony being hell-bent on taking this thing all the way was a continuation of him, even though he was supposed to have learned better with the whole Daphne thing in season 1, and then carrying it on to his own thing, and he's so steadfast. Again, another clear character decision specifically for this man. But when we get to Colin, he gets to be so passive. He gets to be kind of like introspective. He gets to kind of float through these first 4 episodes with very little accountability except for to himself. And even with that, we're not given anything as clear in reference to his conviction as the audience in looking at the previous 2 that you just gave examples of.
I guess I just disagree. I disagree based off of what I watched. For me, Colin, maybe it's not as obvious as Simon and Anthony's, but I think Colin's conflict, if that's the word that we're talking about, what is his struggle? What is his conflict? What is making him work for this? To me, it is a huge part to do with the mask that he has on, that he thinks he needs to put on in order to be with society, when he realizes that he does have feelings for Penelope. And I feel like subconsciously, because I think he's moving in subconscious in the first 2 episodes. So maybe that's why maybe it's not as convincing, or there's not a lot of conviction there, because to me, I don't really think a lot of these things are conscious. Like, he's moving with the consciousness of like, I mean, like, why is it bothering me so much that I haven't talked to this girl like all summer? Like, why is she, I feel like something's off, but I don't know what it is. I know she's avoiding me. I don't know what it is. And then there might be something here, like I'm having these feelings for her, like I'm looking at her a certain way, or I want to be in her presence or whatever, but I don't know what it is. It's not, to me, it doesn't become obvious until the kiss happens, because that's when those feelings awaken. And I feel like his conflict for me is the mask that he's putting on. He's fighting that. And also the fear of, okay, now I realize I'm in love with my best friend, but I don't know if she's going to receive that. Like I thought I had it figured out with Marina, which I feel like that is a little bit more loose because I feel like he was very emotionally immature, obviously, and I don't really know if he loved Marina in a real way that really matters. But I've already had that experience to go off of, so I'm fighting myself because I don't know what to do. I want to be with her. I have these feelings. I'm dreaming about her. This and that, but I don't know how to approach it. I don't know how to take this, or if it's safe for me to take this mask off. I mean, it's the same with Penelope. They're both wearing masks, so that to me is what their connection is, as much as the fact that they've known each other for so long. I think they don't have as much ground to make up for, in my opinion, like Simon and Daphne or Kate and Anthony, because they know each other already. So
I
they
think
don't
they
have to
both
get
have
to know each
masks on,
other.
but Penelope is doing a lot of the heavy lifting this season.
But but that's natural though, because she's Lady Whistledown, and that's been a story that's been focused on since season one. Maybe this goes to your point. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that Colin is the most developed character. I'm saying that for me, this season I see him a bit more clearly than I ever gave him credence for 1 and 2, and it's made me have to rewatch 1 and 2 and see him move with Penelope and see him move as a character where I'm like, okay, I can follow some things here. To me, he's never going to be as clear cut of a character as Anthony. He's never going to be as clear cut of a character as Simon was. I mean, I feel like he's doing a little bit more than Benedict, and because they've chosen to write Benedict into a damn corner. So what I felt like I knew with Benedict, I don't necessarily think I know with Benedict anymore. And I feel like Colin, I can say I know Colin a lot more than Benedict at this point, based on how they've chosen to write, and that's just my opinion. So, I mean, I definitely understand, like, I think this just goes off of, like, just maybe what you prefer to see and, like, what really is going to resonate with you. I just feel like, I don't know, whatever they have going on with Colin and Penelope, I don't know if I can even really articulate it in a way that is going to be succinct, but it's just working for me in a way that I did not expect. And this is me coming from a place of I was not expecting it to hit like this. I wasn't expecting to like be on the opposite side of the argument with Erica. Like in an alternate universe, me and Erica would be like, exactly, yes. But the fact that I'm like, like I'm really feeling like I gotta fight for it. I can't tell you why.
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be together. I'm not saying that at all.
No,
I'm just
not.
saying
No.
that he did not work hard enough for her, but I be womaning a lot, and I be holding this foot to the fire. And using precedent, I'm just kind of like, well, I ain't feel how I needed to feel, and I don't think that you did enough, so it's given D for me, sir. But Melissa, what are you most attracted to with Polin?
Please, Melissa.
What is it that is gravitating or pulling you in with Polin that you didn't expect? Because you mentioned that when you did your overview.
I just want to say one thing about what you said about Penelope reading him for filth. I feel like Penelope is a strong character, and I feel like she could, and she has the potential to, like, read someone for filth. I just feel like with Colin, she's never going to be able to do that because she's been in love with him for so long, and she literally loses her breath when she's around him. Like she can't even her breathing changes very obviously when he's around. So I feel like for her, like that's as vicious as she will ever be, because deep down she still cares about his feelings, even if he wronged her, right? So I don't think that, like, even writing him in Whistledown when no one knows who she is or who Whistledown is, she still didn't write him the way that she could have. Like she could have, but the way she did write him, she knew would hurt him because she knows that he was pretending.
She knows him.
She knows better than anyone that he was pretending. So I feel like just the fact that she hit on that, he was like, oh, wow, people can tell. Even Lady Whistledown can tell. Dang, I thought I was doing a really good job of hiding it. But I just feel like I'm a sucker for the friends to lovers trope, because I just want to fall in love with my best friend. I want to become best friends with someone, and for us to just naturally like fall in love. And in my experience, I've always just ended up being the best friend, which is fine. It wasn't meant to be. But I like that it was subtle, right? I like that it was him realizing that he, and I think I didn't really have words for it until you sent that post from Reddit, Naya, which they like
Mhm.
deserve all the flowers because I feel like they broke it down really well. It wasn't an appearance thing. It wasn't a her changing thing. It was him changing his mindset around who she was to him, right? Like he's
Mhm.
been struggling to be himself in a world where he's not allowed to be himself, but in his small bubble with Penelope, he could always be himself. And then when he comes back, he realizes, oh, I still have one place where I can be myself, and it's Penelope. And I think that's what shifts for him. And I didn't like that she had to ask him for a kiss, but at the very least, I like that he was the one that came to her. Even though she wasn't sure she wanted to marry the guy, even though she knew she still loved Colin and she was hoping he would change his mind, she would have still married that guy and been like, Colin, who? I wanted to get married, I'm going to get married. And I feel like that it shows a strength of character because she could have just pined away for Colin forever without knowing whether he would like change his actions towards her. She would have made a practical match and been very happy, and she would have been wealthy as hell. So I like that they didn't make her ask the question to him, like, "Would you ever consider us more than friends?" I like
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't go that direction, and they let him be the one to bridge that gap. And she was just like, "I'm never gonna say anything about how I feel," but I yeah, that's my those are my initial thoughts. You guys said a lot of stuff, and I'm just like so deep, so deep, so deep. I didn't think that deep
Sorry.
about it. I
Well,
haven't rewatched this season. I haven't
Can I
rewatched
say
that
something?
season, so I don't know.
well, wait
But
before you do it, Night. I want to because she said
I just want to make
something.
sure I don't lose it. Yes, she said a lot that I,
But the
yes,
part
yes,
that
go
I want
ahead.
to go to really quickly is like you said that you don't feel like she would ever be able to come at him that way because she loved him. She loved him for so long. And the moment that you said that, that gave me a red flag for the future because part of I think what is really brilliant about the Bridgerton world is that we're getting to see a lot of the women who are in these relationships come into a certain level of autonomy, identity, and voice that challenges the men in a way that can sometimes bruise their ego, but they actually need it. So to think that Penelope is never going to be able to get to that place, but then she's going to go into this marriage and then be led by this wayward ass man who is kind of figuring it out. I don't want that for her. She's too strong of a woman to have that. So that's just making for me like even more concerned of like, yeah, he ain't ready. If she can't
Oh,
be real and like she can never have a moment that's gonna like that she had with Eloise, which is actually her real friend, then I don't know if I want it. Go ahead, Naya.
but I think this plays into what we have not seen yet. I think she might stand on business the most that you probably want her to when it comes to Lady Whistledown, because what's more sacred to her besides Colin and Eloise? We can't say because she doesn't have that right now. Lady Whistledown is the most sacred relationship that she has outside of those two. So I think once that is going to get tested and to the point where there's no hiding from it anymore, that is the whole buildup of the part two. I think she might have those moments that you're looking for where it's like, like having to juggle this, like both true loves, but like, how do I finally merge them? How do I stop, being Lady Whistledown in private? Like, I think this clever, witty, intelligent wordsmith that Penelope is capable of being and that we've seen, that comes from Lady Whistledown. That is who she is, but like Colin's journey, it's about merging those two things together. I think he has found confidence. I think he has found a swagger over the summer. I think that's true, but obviously it's in the way that you express that. That's the inauthentic part, which is him trying to be a trollop. Like, that's inauthentic. But I think he has confidence in a way that he did not have in seasons 1 and season 2. So how do you merge that with this gentle-hearted, sensitive person that you've always been? Same thing with Penelope. How do you merge these two? The wallflower who's romantic and is hopeless and in love and believes in all these beautiful things, and how do you merge that with the strong, powerful Lady Whistledown esqueness that is you? I think we probably are going to see that in the second half. So it's hard to say where, if Penelope's ever going to get there. I think that's the whole point of this season, is because it's been that buildup of like, when is she actually going to stand on business? And it might not be I don't know if it's going to be on the Colin front in the sense of like their friendship and love. I think it might more come like now that they're together. I think that might come up now, but connected to this Lady Whistledown secret, because that's going to be very interconnected. And Also going because Melissa made a lot of good points. I think I'm also a sucker for Friends to Lovers too, so I think that's why I love it so much
I think
because
that's why I'm
you
so
know
critical,
in
because I'm like,
the
I love
landscape
it,
the
but
lands the the landscape of Bridgerton, Friends to Lovers, like because everything has been so big and romantic and explosive and intense these first two seasons, it was hard for me to imagine that we could get kind of um this subtle, light, kind of awkward, like friends to lovers, the rom com energy that I'm getting in season three. And even like they're showing with Francesca's story, like there are different depictions of what love is. It does
mm-hmm.
not have to be the intense, in your face, I love you, but I can't have you, and then throw like it makes you want to throw stuff, and it makes you want to just pass out. Like it doesn't always have to show up like that, and I think that's what we've been conditioned to want. And listen, want every shade of love in one. Like we're not limiting ourselves here. But I think what I love is, I think specifically in this season, you're seeing two different depictions of love stories that are happening, and I don't know. I'm into it, and I feel like with Colin and Penelope, I don't know. It's very interesting how much enjoyed their buildup, and like to me, I feel like he went through it just enough, in my opinion. And like I said, it's not presenting itself in the way of like Anthony, where it's like it's so much that I can't breathe. I think it's enough where you see he's struggling and he's going through it, and yes, it is happening internally, and maybe we'll get some of that left over in part two. But to me, I'm not necessarily craving it, because I feel like I saw what I needed to see, and I feel like he yearned and suffered as much as he could have, because I think Penelope did close the door multiple times. And there, when we're talking about character growth, there are several moments where she could have sat in that with Colin, and she could have gone back to the pining Penelope that we've seen. But there are certain moments where she breaks a moment, or she walks away and she's like, I am pursuing Lord Devling. This is what's on the table. I'm not going down this road with Colin. I just, for me, she closes the door. And okay, speak about the kids.
But even in those moments, I feel like that some of them are unintentional, because I think that she wrote off him actually getting to a place to really like her, even if she was like having inklings. I think that it was easy for her to close the door.
I agree.
Because she didn't think that it was possible, and that's the part that is just missing for me. I don't think that he has to be Anthony. I think that the whole raking around was very copy and paste from Anthony, and it looked exactly like it for me. But I am just comparing what I would have dubbed like your disrespect or your dismissal needs to be just as loud as what the love journey looks like for me. And it does not align in that for me. And Penelope still was going through quite a lot emotionally as it pertains to this boy. And while you have seen that he was going through a lot, it wasn't as outwardly expressed for me to actually be able to confirm that. So I'm having dissonance, not in that he is not showing up like the previous guys, because he doesn't have to be those, but I do think that he needs to show up and at least present accountable in reference to me believing that he's actually changed and he's worthy of her, to be in alignment with addressing, not necessarily directly, but just for me, all of the things that she had to go through and feeling the negative emotions tied to loving him.
That's fair. I mean, I just also want to address the kiss moment as well, because I guess I see it differently. I don't think it was her begging. I think it was simply a moment of, this moment just failed. This plan that I had with Colin just failed. He was supposed to help me, give me lessons, whatever this idea was, because it's the lesson. It's just, I laugh about it because they had one lesson and literally all of it was just about her being herself. So I was just like, yeah, this was a failure from the get-go, but nice try. But this plan just failed. Everyone now knows that she was being helped by this man, and this is the last ditch effort. She feels like she's going to be a spinster forever. Like, I think she's essentially like 19 or 20 in the show. So she's not as young as I thought she was. She is considered to be older because she's been in the marriage market for 3 years. So I just feel like, imagine you feel like it's never going to happen. And I just feel like if you can't ask this boy who has been your friend since you were childhood to give you this one moment that it's open and shut. It's like it also closes the moment on of her and Colin forever. So I think in that moment, I think she actually had a lot of agency. I don't think it was her begging him for this moment. I think it calls back to what he told her earlier, which was just say how you feel and don't worry about how it's perceived. And I think in that moment, to me, this was a moment of her standing on business, in my opinion, and asking, simply asking for what she wants. Because with Colin, it's always been this thing of, I'm never going to say anything because I just don't think he's ever going to feel the same way. And I think for her to look at him and just be like, can you give me this moment? And he could have said no. He could have very well said no and like, no,
But even in that, though, Naya, like to your point of like, you're saying that she's standing on business and he told her to ask for what she wants. What she ultimately wants was him. She divorced him from that and just asked for the actual action as to kind of still mask herself. So that's also why I'm like, that's not, it wasn't really her having agency or walking into that. It was her relegating herself to spinsterhood, which could be a very valid feeling in especially in the time that they're in the age that she is. But it was not autonomous, because if that was the case, that we were just going to go, Hail Mary with it, then she would have been more open about the importance of it being a kiss from him.
But I feel like it was agency in the sense of like, she's never gone there with him before. She could have went there with him in seasons 1 and season 2 and asked for that moment. I think, to me, I felt like it was a moment of her setting the tone of like, this is what I want in this moment, and I'm asking you. I don't know what's going to come from it, but for the first time, she can say that, looking back, if her and Colin had never gotten together, and she was in a loveless marriage or just never got married, she could look back on that moment and say that I asked this boy and it happened, and I got that feeling from it, and I was able to move on. That to me is agency, in the sense of like, she to me set the tone for that moment. He did not. So that's what I consider agency of like, and that's the first time we had seen that from her before, in a way. So that's just how I feel about it. But I've seen a whole lot of, why is she begging for this kiss? And this is like, even more embarrassing. And I just kind of feel like it's easy to look at that and say that. But if you were in Penelope's shoes and you felt devastated and heartbroken that this last ditch effort for you to finally find a husband so that you could be secure and get away from your family, how would you feel if that all just went away? And you have this boy who, it's complicated, yes, because you've had feelings for him for a long time, but you also just want to feel something in a moment and have that be yours. And so it's easy to like write that off and kind of make it this kind of trite thing. But I think, I don't know. I feel like Penelope is very human in that sense, that I don't know. I feel like I can relate.
I don't think that her reasonings don't make sense. I understand her reasonings. My whole point about that is like, I don't even have a problem with the season. I don't have a problem with that particular action. I'm just saying that's again another way that they had her doing the heavy lifting, and it just lines up for me of like, he did not have to actually struggle and really work for her, because that moment could have happened with him initiating it if they wrote it different. But I'm
not saying you. When I'm saying these things, like, I'm listening to you, but I'm saying what I'm also coloring things from what I've seen. Certain criticisms I think have not been fair, and I think that it becomes less of a, I prefer this, like your reasons. I prefer this because of my experience here, and I feel like you should have come harder here because I feel like this and that. I've seen a lot of criticisms that have just debunked it all, and I don't think that's fair if you're watching a season. To me, like, I feel like we all do in its entirety, and I have to give credence to some things. Like, I have to like find the good and find the bad, things that I resonate with and that I connect with, and the bad. And I feel like some of the criticisms that I've seen have just like outwardly discounted every single choice that has been made in this first part, rather than kind of seeing it from a more, okay, but why don't I like it? Like, what's not clicking for me? And I think I'm not saying you, like, when I say these things, it's more of what I've seen. And, like I said, I think your points are all very valid. Like, I think it really just comes down to, what do you prefer to see when you see these love stories being depicted? What moves you? What what is it that you're longing for when you're watching these things? And I think that that's how you base these you watch these seasons, as opposed to what a lot of other people make it about everything else, which I'm just like, okay, it takes away from, the viewing experience for me. So especially like when I see things that I feel like are just very outward, and that kind of like just annoys me just a little bit, because I'm like, I feel like we're not watching the same thing. But in terms of your criticism, I understand it, but I'm just saying, I'm more addressing like certain things I've seen, and like maybe some of the words that you're using, like kind of other people have used, but not in a very loose way that I don't think really drives their point home. Other than like, I just don't like it because I feel like Kane Anthony didn't get enough screen time, and I feel like I want to see more of them in this season. It's just like, okay, is there anything else? Like, what is the point here? Like, what are you trying to say about how this makes you feel?
Right.
So that's my whole thing.
That's real.
That's why I guess I'm fighting against,
And that's valid. I mean, I don't have perspective on those particular points because I don't get on Twitter and I don't particularly read a bunch of anything around a lot of stuff. Just because what I do and what I've experienced. So for me, a lot of what I'm saying is just what's coming up for me when I ask myself, and then what I share, and then when I share, and then I rethink back or re-listen back, and we go through a conversation. I'm like, okay, well maybe that was valid, and then I'll adjust. But going back to Melissa's point with, or actually the point that you spawned from Melissa's point, and you feel like the second half, when it comes down to standing on business and tied to Lady Whistledown, that immediately draws concern for me as well, because I'm not fully convicted that she needs to fight for Lady Whistledown. How do y'all feel about that?
Like, you mean you think she should just let it go?
Like, what do you mean by let it?
I think that I think that we can develop certain coping mechanisms for trauma in our life, and I think that Lady Whistledown has been that. It has been one that she has been able to use her God-given abilities and additional talent and intellect in, but it's definitely a trauma response to how she has been treated, how she's been raised, and what their society looks like. And I think that there's a certain level of toxicity that is building within maintaining the anonymity around Lady Whistledown, that I don't want her to necessarily fight for. So if it comes down to her fighting her true love and who she wants to be with, and she's going to stand on business about Lady Whistledown, then I'm going to jump, unfortunately, to Colin's side. And I don't even believe that he's a strong enough leader just yet, because he hasn't shown me enough, because I don't think that that's the thing that she needs to fight for. If anything, I would love for her to find a way to transition into, if she's going to continue to write it or continue to write something like it, and utilize her gifts as a writer to be able to do so with her full chest and her full name in her own right. And I would hope that that's what his conflict with this lady is, or with the idea of Lady Whistledown, is going to compel from her. When it comes to him, you can hate her all the hell that you like, but once you figure out that that's the love of your life, you need to go ahead and drop the shit for me. So in the anticipation of that particular conflict point, I'm not actually excited about it, because it's a clear cut. Y'all need to cut it the fuck out. You need to let this shit go because you've been that girl, and you need to get over it because you was raggedy as fuck.
You want to go, Melissa?
I had never even considered her not fighting for Lady Whistledown, because I don't know that I could imagine Bridgerton without Lady Whistledown. But yeah, I don't think I have strong feelings for her one way or the other, to be honest. I just couldn't imagine not hearing that narration while watching the show.
It's so interesting just because I know the source material, so I really don't know what they're going to do at the end of this season. I really don't. Based off of the books, I don't know if you guys want me to spoil it, because I don't know if they're to follow this. Okay.
I'm barely hanging on as is, Naya.
I will say though, this is one that I'll share just because we already know what happens in the show, and they're obviously they're not doing this. But the reason why it's so heightened in this second part, why it's becoming it's going to be such a big thing with the Lady Whistledown front. In the books, he knows already before he proposes to her. So it's part of the reason why he does propose to her, because yes, he is in love with her at this point, but he also wants to protect her from the scrutiny that will come if anyone finds out. Eloise does not know in the books. Colin is the only one that finds out. And so there's conflict that arises because of that. So the fact that the choice that they made, which I also do like, the choice, I mean, I'm kind of wondering if I like it or I don't like it. I'm going to have to see uh, part two, because I mean, I like it for the fact that they made it specifically about him realizing that he's in love with her at this point and he just wants to be with her, right? That's why he chooses to propose to her. But in the books, it is more like he knows already, and there's, like I said, there's things that arise because of that, which is very interesting, which I hope they touch on in a new way in part two. But in terms of Lady Whistledown, I feel like it's run its course, in my opinion, in terms of it being Penelope. I think that, to Melissa's point, I couldn't imagine it without it. So I think if I'm making a prediction, I feel like it will continue on. I just don't know if Penelope is going to be the one to be behind it anymore, because I think it's become bigger than her at this point, which is the whole issue. You cannot control this beast anymore. So when are we gonna pack it up? Because it's gotten too complicated. You're engaged to this man. You're in love with this man. He's in love with you. You're gonna have to kill it at some point because it's not servicing you anymore. Like Erica said, it was a mask. It was an escape. And while I feel like a lot of character traits, like she's able to tap into when she is Lady Whistledown, it's becoming a beast that is becoming very toxic, to the point where it's like we can't defend you continuing to be it anymore because there's no reason. Like there's simply no reason for you to do it anymore. So I want it to be wrapped up in terms of it being Penelope, based off of what I know in the books. Like I would like it to be wrapped up, in terms of, okay, it comes out, he got to sit with it and deal with it, because Colin, I mean, I'm gonna rock with you being annoyed by it, but I really don't care. Because to me, when I think about Lady Whistledown, I just don't care. Simply, I don't feel like she's written anything truly deplorable. She's not out here killing people. She's not out here throwing people's babies out the window. In my mind, hold on. In my opinion, yes, some of the things have been salacious. I'm not saying, like her with the Marina situation, girl, she was dead ass wrong for that. And yes, I can't get behind her there. The thing with Eloise, now we have a difference of opinion about this. Yes, was she wrong? Yes. I'm not saying that Penelope is a morally angel of a character and I have her on this pedestal, because I don't. I see you, Penelope. I see you clearly. You are just like the rest of us, but you might be on some other stuff too, because girl. But with Lady Whistledown, I just feel like simply it's a gossip column. She is not saying anything that has not already been on the streets. Now, do you need to be the one to repeat it? Probably not, but it's already what's been said. So to me, if y'all don't want y'all business out there, stop putting your business out there. Stop talking. Stop chatting. The ton society, which is why I could not exist in it as a whole, feeds off of this. I'm gonna talk about this person because I'm projecting because this and this and that. It's this whole like toxicity going on within the ton, which I feel like Penelope is reflecting as Lady Whistledown. Is it we can judge whether because she's a human being and she has her own feelings, it makes her impartial? Absolutely. But or not impartial. I just feel like to me, I just don't care. To me, it doesn't give me the same, oh my God, she's so horrible for this. Like, I just don't care about it that much. I've always felt like it's been petty gossip, and some things have been more than others, and she definitely, should not be exposing certain things, but I think that you can't pick and choose what you're going to be salacious about. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, in terms of Lady Whistledown, I just don't care. I just, in Erica's point of view, it needs to, we've gotten to a point where we've built up to it for 3 seasons. It has to come to a point where it's like, okay, girl, you don't really need this anymore. So probably we should let it go, right? So I agree. I think at the end of the season, in terms of Penelope being the one, it needs to be over.
Well, I'm going to, because I think we got to use Lady Whistledown to segue into the conversation around Eloise, but I want to give Melissa a space to talk about what you're looking forward to in part 2, or any other thoughts that you might have had, because I noticed you said that you wanted to try to get off around this time, because Melissa is educating the youth, honey.
Mm-hmm. Doing the Lord's work.
I am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a lot of things. One, Kate and Anthony are back in the trailer for the part 2, so I'm excited to see them again. I'm excited to see Francesca and John Sterling and how that develops, because I just feel like I don't. I guess neurodivergent is one way, but I interpreted them as being like um, introverted, and like the intimacy of just being in the same space with someone and not needing to talk is like
I think
a
it's both
different
for
way.
me.
Yeah, like I
Hmm.
could see that. I just feel
Hmm.
like that's something that's new to be introduced in like this Regency era when everyone was just very gossipy and out there and whatever. Excuse me. And then I'm really excited for Colin and Penelope. First of all, I love how every one of these Bridgertons are very improper in following the society standards of behavior, because he definitely takes her to his bedroom that night. So they just do not care about rules of decorum or any of those things. And I'm just like, I'm here for it. Um, but I love, we were talking about this in the group chat. I want to root for Mama Violet finding a boo because she deserves. Um, but if he's trash, then I don't want that for her. But he doesn't feel like trash. He feels
He
like he could
don't
be just
feel
as
like
handsome. He
trash.
doesn't feel like trash. I honestly feel like I think Lady Danbury might be still upset that he married her off to that old man, that old
Yeah.
decrepit man, and never
Naya
came
was
back for
cooking
her.
his ass in
I
the
think
group chat, and I'm like, I thought I was a good judge of character. I'm not seeing it. That man, I ain't
he
saying
I
does
he's
not look
see
like
it.
trash.
perfect, but I'm just like,
I see
I
it.
think he's genuine.
And he's looking for a
Okay.
love match, which is what Violet deserves. A second love match. She deserves it. Um, so I'm excited to see where that goes, if it goes anywhere. Um, and I'm excited for the Queen's antics, because she's gonna, of course, be upset that her sparkler chooses someone that's not who she wants. Um, and then the Whistledown thing, Eloise. I just want to say my part about the Eloise thing.
Okay.
I was upset with Penelope when she did it. When she first did it, I was like, oh hell no, because I loved Eloise. I loved her character. I loved who she was, and I was rooting for her. I thought she would be the one to. I know giving up society and giving up your family and all that stuff would be hard, but I feel like of all the families in the society, she has the one family that would not ostracize her for
Mm-hmm.
marrying outside of a noble person, because her mom believes in love, and if she genuinely found love in that boy, it would be hard for her because of course people are going to talk, but I think in the end, her family would still support her. So like I was rooting for her in that way. But then now seeing it from the perspective of like how she's behaving towards Penelope now, like girl, you don't even remember why you mad. So like sit down. Second, you sound like you're mad at her for being Lady Whistledown versus what she wrote about you. That's how I'm interpreting it. And it's like you loved Lady Whistledown until you figured out that that person was more clever than you are, and you think you're the most clever person in every room. And then I'm also seeing how she's a bad friend, because if I'm more empathetic toward that Cressida girl than you are, and she's supposedly your friend, you're a bad friend, because she literally has told you multiple times that her family is giving her crap about not being married, and you keep making jokes about the fact that she has not, like, that this guy didn't like her, that she didn't. Oh well, maybe it's for the best. And then when she says the thing about a, a Greek or love story about a girl who family is gonna marry her off to some old whatever. She said it sounds like a Greek thing, and I wanted to slap her. I was like, girl, you don't see the sadness in your friend's face. You don't see that she doesn't have the same luxury that you have, where your mom is like, oh, I almost pushed her out of the ton. Okay, let me fall back and let her do things her own way. Not everyone has that. And she can't step outside of her own privilege to see other people's situations and understand that Penelope is also doing this for money, because her family doesn't have any, and also her family is terrible to her. Her family does not treat her with love. She's the smartest person in the room, Penelope, I mean, and her sisters think they're smarter than her. When the two of them can't pinch a brain cell to work. Like,
Yeah.
what?
That's it.
So,
And this is what we were going back and forth with in the group chat that kind of spawned this whole live. And I was on Eloise's ass on the first watch. Them voice notes I sent to Naya, I was on Eloise's ass.
And I thought we were in
But
togetherness. I thought we
baby,
were in to her. But
on
she
the
left me. She left me
rewatch,
in the comments.
on the rewatch, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna do this. Eloise, get behind me, babe. Get behind me. Because while I see everything that you're saying, I don't think that on the first, and I actually have rewatched season 1 a couple times, but it's with these new eyes and in hindsight of seeing half of season 3 that I really realized how codependent Penelope and Eloise were. Everything that we're seeing Eloise do with Cressida, she literally did with Pen. She is desperately trying to replace a friend, a part of her that was a very real thing in Cressida. So it's really not even about Cressida. She's still hurting as this little girl who needs her friend. And while some of it could see, because Eloise is so intellectual and so witty, some of it could seem like she is coming off in a way that's like looking down or shunning or not acknowledging her privilege. I think that hoe really believed that they were going to be Spencers together. That was going to be her. Like, we are in this thing. We're locked in. And watching season 1 again this morning, and I'm seeing even how comfortable Eloise was walking around the town, and she's like fawning all over and they arm in arm, and she's just so comfortable. It's like Penelope is Eloise's husband from the very beginning. So that to me colored where we're at in season 3, and I told y'all that upon second watch, I'm like, I don't think that she could be. Now, it might be like 25% jealous of like your Lady Whistledown, and I idolize Lady Whistledown. But I think that a lot of it is she thought that they were on the same level in a space where they look down on everybody. All of y'all are nitwits. This society is ridiculous. Y'all got us going through this circus and jumping through these hoops, and all we both want to do is be free. Penelope is cool with having a little penis on the side, but she still want her books and her writing. Eloise just wants the books and the writing. So she just like, if they could choose, they would be able to run the whole town and rewrite all the rules, and they would do that shit together. And I think that's something very real to have a person who you believe is your person and to have very similar ideals about everything up until a point that comes into you defying the odds within the society when y'all were both on the same page in reference to not believing in the norms of said society. So when Penelope goes and outs her for doing something that's against this and could ruin her or whatever, she says she did it to save her, which kinda, girl, it's giving 15% because ultimately you did it to save Lady Whistledown, which brings you to a place as a friend of like, not only did you do this and put me in this position and you feel like it was saving me, but you did it without me. And up until this point, we ran everything by each other. I looked at the whole Cressida, like telling Cressida about Colin's plan to help Penelope again, and I'm like, she didn't do that maliciously. She did that shit the same way that she was so eager to tell Penelope all of the little things that she learned when she came across certain things as she was moving about through the town. And she was just reckless and wasn't thinking about like, yo, I am not actually with people who, or I'm actually saying this too loud and I'm around other people. So I don't think that on the first watch, I felt like Eloise had more malicious intent. And then when I rewatched it after seeing season 1 again, I'm like, no, she's still doing a lot of the same things. She just has a lot of the best friend hurt of like, you were my person and now I have no person. I have to go find a new person. And she just happens to be very invested in making Cressida that person.
But I just want to add one thing though. What makes them different and what Eloise is refusing to understand, her family wouldn't disown her if she ends up a spinster. Penelope's family don't have 2 pennies to rub together, so if she's a spinster, she's out on the street.
But is that really clear that she don't have money? Because I don't feel like that's fully clear all the time.
You don't think Eloise knows that?
That's true.
I don't think that Penelope, that's clear that the Feathertons don't have money. Like, they had their little stint, but then now they still running around and buying dresses and doing, like, they're not moving like they don't have money. They still live across the street. She still got her tacky ass frocks, like.
No, but it is. They're broke. They're broke.
No, I get that could be a thing. I just don't know if it's a thing that Eloise would naturally think about or she's maliciously ignoring. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that she's maliciously ignoring it because they, as a family, are trying to hide it.
Well, I don't think it's I don't think I've ever looked at Eloise, even that in that moment, where she tells Cressida and she just speaks too loudly because obviously we know Cressida's not the one who said anything. I never saw it as malicious. I just saw it as, girl, like, if we're talking about how reckless Lady Whistledown is, you're not exactly that was your whole argument at the end of season 2 of like, you have been reckless, you put my business out on the street, what about my brother, what about this, what about that? Like, those are some of the points. I'm oversimplifying probably, but if those were the points you were making, if we're saying Lady Whistledown is reckless for how she decides to write about people, which that's debatable for me, but if that's the argument, then you're not, in this example, you're not doing anything any differently from me, and you are saying this information to a girl who every time Penelope has a moment, Cressida is there to come and ruin it. And yes, that is to Cressida's, story. Obviously, they're trying to make her sympathetic, and I just don't really know if I'm buying it. Like, if we're talking about who I'm not buying the development, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling Cressida, girl. You can keep her where she's at. To me, you don't mess with Penelope a little bit too much for me, and I don't care if your daddy is raggedy. I don't care if your mama is raggedy. I don't care if you living in the damn mausoleum. I don't care if he's trying to marry you off to some old ass man. I don't care. Okay, and nothing in the world don't make me care. Okay. So
quite even with that you wish you were Penelope. How about that? Y'all in the same circumstances, familiar wise, and she's still a better bitch than you. So Cressida,
because how you end up trying to be in the same man's face that Penelope's trying to court. Girl, bye. You know who you're trying to be.
Wait,
relax.
Penelope's not courting. That's courting Penelope.
Period. Sorry,
he was courting Penelope. It was different.
But she was pursuing him though. She was pursuing. That's why I meant pursuing. Yes, but yes. So going back to Eloise, in that term, like, when I never think she's malicious, but I just think, going to Melissa's point, that if I have to pinpoint, like Erica, like you do, you talk through things and you got to pinpoint what the issue is. And when we were talking about it in the group chat, I think it hit me, and I think I said this. I don't think Eloise knows why she's mad anymore. And to me, your movements in season 3, even though, yes, you miss this girl, clearly, just like Colin is looking for this girl, you are looking for this girl. Just like he cares about which Penelope's got going on, you care, clearly, because there's no reason for you to even, like, if I'm not talking to somebody, girl, it's out of sight, out of mind, which is easier said than done, especially with, like, girl friendships. Like, obviously, that's a thing. Like, it's just as significant as Penelope's love story to Colin. But I just feel like with Eloise, because I feel like there's a lack of not even knowing why you were mad to begin with, to me, and that has to be stated for me in part 2 for me to really care. Because Eloise right now is 0-6. And I feel like it's because of this lack of being able to identify, okay, you're hurt by this girl, but do you know why? Can you trace back? Is it because you're mad that you couldn't find out that she was Lady Whistledown before it all came crashing down? Are you mad that she exposed your activities? Are you mad because she exposed Colin? What are you mad about? Because in terms of her being mad about the marina, I think it was easy for her to conflate that in that argument at the end of season 2. Because I watched the scene in season 1 where it all comes out. This is after Penelope chooses to expose Marina as Lady Whistledown. And the first scene Penelope and Eloise have, Penelope, she's like asking, like, how are things at home? Like, what's going on? And Penelope is just like, yeah, like, it's not good, like, or what, something like that. And Penelope's like, oh, how's Colin? And Eloise is like, oh, he'll be fine. Basically, the gentlemen in the situation, they're always fine. I'm worried about you. So to me, in that scene, that debunks that you even give a rat's ass about Colin being exposed, because you knew he was going to be good regardless. So that, to me, when you're mad at her,
just prioritize her loves?
That goes out the. Huh?
Does that debunk it, or does that just prioritize their loves? Because for me, it just provides additional context. If she cares about Penelope top, like, Penelope is up
you're
there
right
in her life.
No, you're right, and so I do agree. Oh my God, I hate you, Erica, because you sitting there talking about it, I'm like, you know what? Yes. But I think in terms of, like, what Melissa's point is, and when it comes to Eloise in season 3, what I'm struggling with Eloise is it's making her very difficult for me to watch, because if I cannot identify where all of this energy is coming from, to me, it's more than just you're hurt by this girl who, yes, you were very codependent on. What are the reasons? Like, I don't feel like she can really identify them, and the reasons that she chooses to identify are really reasons. Like, I don't find them convincing. And so for me, maybe she needs to take a step outside the ton and take a note from her brother, and she need to go travel abroad, because I think also it's making me not care about her development. I feel like it's becoming a regression, in the sense of you're becoming this thing in a system that, yes, you really want to fight against. You still see her trying to fight against this system of like the marriage mart and trying to find a husband in this. But I guess I'm waiting for the moment where you finally do something about it. Girl, take your ass abroad like your brother. It's not like you don't have the means. Go take your ass somewhere else so that way we are not seeing you in a position over and over again where it's like you're stewing. And it's just becoming, it starts to feel like malicious. It starts to feel like you're just mad to be mad.
She's very Karen adjacent this season. She's very Karen adjacent this season. But they are white women in the Regency era.
They are.
They are
really,
white women.
That's really the bow. That's the bow. We over here trying to like add colors to it, but there's only one color. So
thank
that
you, Melissa. Thank you so much for your perspective and hopping on with us and being here because we appreciate you.
We appreciate you always.
I can't wait to watch the rest of this, and also we have to do this again after the last 4 episodes.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes.
We do.
Yes.
On the weekend when we got time. Because we also got to go back and watch the other seasons. Because season 2 now is calling me.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you got to rewatch.
Great day tomorrow, Melissa.
Thank you.
Bye, Melissa. Love you.
Okay, let me figure out this real quick. Oh, perfect. It just kind of like slapped into place. Before we move,
I feel like that was my thoughts about Eloise though. But I just wanted like, does that become, because I think in the group chat it was like a lot, and I feel like I couldn't really identify like what has been pissing me off about Eloise, and I feel like I've been marinating about it. We've been talking about it, and I think even when you were saying it, I'm like, yeah, this just reaffirms. And then seeing that like the scenes I rewatched, there were Eloise and Penelope scenes obviously within seasons 1 and 2, because going to your point, they are so codependent that Penelope's love story outside of Colin is Eloise, and that's why it hits so hard, because you want them to figure it out too. And I'm struggling with that, because I'm like, Eloise, I want you to get ish together, because it is hard to find a good girlfriend, and I think there's so much beauty in their friendship. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a toxic friendship. I think
I was just about to ask that. Do you think that Eloise isn't a good friend, like Melissa mentioned?
I think after, I don't know if I would have said, I think to me, I don't know if it's a bad friend or like in reference to Cressida, I just kind of feel like, girl, I don't care about Cressida, so I could care less what Eloise's interaction with Cressida. I don't care. Eloise, I mean, Cressida ain't a friend to nobody, so I don't give a rat's ass if Eloise pays her the light of day. Like, girl, no one really cares about your issues. Whatever, girl. I don't care. But in reference to Penelope, I feel like Colin, they have both overlooked Penelope in certain ways and have taken her for granted in certain ways. But I feel like Penelope has also had her fair share that has come from Lady Whistledown. So I feel like there is this
come from her lack mindset and her insecurity. Child, season 1, I'm just like, baby.
And I think I'm seeing Eloise's insecurities too, and I want them to touch on it in part 2, because I feel like there's an insecurity there where this is all coming from. And I feel like I want to detect that it's this notion of not wanting to be alone. I think, as much as Eloise wants to fight against the system, and I'm here for fighting the patriarchy, even if it is from the confines of your safe little bubble, because girl, you have all the means and access to shout and riot and do all these things that a Simon can't do, a Lady Danbury could not do in her day, a Queen Charlotte had to fight to do, okay, as queen. So I'm here for it, but with reason. And I think maybe that's the other thing that I struggle with Eloise as well, is in seasons 1 and 2, it's easy to shout about things. It's easy to be like, I'm against this because of this. But what are you doing? Yeah. What are we doing? You have all the means and access to do something about it. You can be the girl who wants to be the rich auntie if you really choose. You could be the girl that goes on a trip every summer like your brother. You could do that. You have the luxury to go expand your mind beyond your intellect, your internal intellect. And I don't think we see that. So I struggle with, yes, she's a great character and such a foil to this society, but like it's like words without action. And so for me, it falls flat, which is also contributing to, I feel like Eloise is giving me a walking contradiction. Yeah, it's giving me, and that's what I could label Eloise. It's a walking contradiction in this part 1 to me, that it's just like, girl, where are we going? Like, who do you really want to be? Because while we're trying to figure out where Colin's going, I don't know where you're going either. And I feel like you're low-key regressing, because now I'm starting to rethink your character presentation from the get-go. And I wonder if certain elements that you presented to us was to mask something deeper. And I think it's this notion, I was going back to my point, this notion of, I don't think she likes to be alone. I think this notion of everybody pairing off, like I think her and Colin are very close. So I think this notion of her being bothered about this engagement, it really just shows, yes, how deep her love is. And I wish she would just tap into that instead of it just, I hate when things become about everything else rather than us getting to the nitty gritty. And I think that's a human defense mechanism. It's just what we do. We're going to make something else, about something when it's really about this, right? But I think with Eloise, it's been too much of that for me, where I'm like, I don't really know who you are as a character at this point. And I don't know if you need distance from this society, but I feel like we're getting to the point with Eloise of, if we're setting up her story, if her season is, I hope it's season 5, but if your season is coming up, I need them to start setting you up for that, because to me it's becoming stale and stagnant.
And I think they are. On the second watch, because I'm not even gonna hold you. On the first watch, I was looking at everything that Eloise did as malicious. Because after the first time, I was just like, all right, girl, I don't trust this. And I think I was tainted in that way. But in rewatching season 1 and getting a reminder and like falling back in love with her character, like Eloise was, aside from like Ray J, because he's just fucking gorgeous, and Daphne, actually, because Daphne is just so sweet and she just looks like protect the precious. Eloise was like a very strong character in season 1 that I gravitated towards immediately, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's my girl. That's mine right there. So for me, this goes back to my point in reference to like Colin not doing enough, and particularly the POLIN storyline not, I guess, giving me enough, because I'm more interested in a bunch of other things that's happening outside of them for their season, which is also not contributing to me feeling the good feels about us being, halfway into this season, right? Like, I'm in love with where Francesca's at and the journey that we're watching her go on for her little love story and getting clarity around that. I'm more invested in if Penelope and Eloise are ever going to be friends again and how this is all going to play out than I am in the whole Polinness of it all. And I think that we are seeing maybe a bit of regression so that we can be propelled forward, because when we first met Eloise, she came in very strong, very hot, very standing on business about what she feels. And to get this season, or at least this half of the season, and to see her vulnerable, I'm very much so attributing, they didn't say this, but I'm attributing most of her vulnerability and her kind of like shucking and jiving in this way and not committing to a decision because she don't have her backbone that would have helped her do so. Her relationship dissolving with Penelope is a big hit to her. And I think for me, I see more of Eloise being impacted by the lack of engagement and friendship and community with Penelope this season than I did from Colin not getting them damn letters over the summer and how he returned, because he still came back with a certain, to me, level of expectation, and it did, like, I got to see a bit of the dig, but it didn't really, like, he didn't really feel phased. But Eloise ass is phased. She's phased at the sight of her. She's phased at the hearing of her. She's phased at the idea of her. And I'm more so pulled into that, to go back to the point of like, this could be the setup for if her season is season 5. If we don't ever get this moment, I don't know if I believe that she's capable of this, or I don't even know if I believe that Eloise is as a dimensional character as she is in reference to identifying a codependency until something like this happens.
Which is fair. That's fair. I mean... Yeah, I mean, when it comes to my frustrations with Eloise, that's where they come from. All the reasons that I said. I feel like I'm definitely invested. I mean, I'm all here for the love of your life, also being your girl. Like, I think there's something so beautiful about your best friend being that one. Like, boys come and go. Like, love, it doesn't have to take one form and one person. Like, yes, you were in love with this boy, but when he was not mature enough to reciprocate those feelings, your girl was there. Yep. And that is as important to build up. So I'm not saying I'm completely not invested in, of course, I'm so invested to see like how that trickles out, because it's only going to get more complicated. Because I think there is kind of this interesting, not love triangle in sort of this weird way, but there is kind of this three-dimensional with Colin, Penelope, and Eloise as well. And where that I know that there's something beyond with Eloise, but I think that's my. I mean, it's also you gotta let it unravel. So I know it's like hopefully there's more to come, but I mean I still stand by my frustrations with her, where I just feel like I really feel like I don't really think she knows anymore why she's mad, and I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's also just human nature too. You be so mad about something in the moment, and you stand on business in on the moments why you're mad about it, and then you just you're hurt. And I think I think Eloise is not even mad anymore. I think she's just hurt, and I get it, but I'm just like,
Do something.
I feel I'm just like I don't know. I feel like I've just been so exacerbated with Eloise that I feel like because she came in so guns a blazing, and obviously she was the character that you had to root for because she is completely debunking what is going on in society. Like
Yep.
it's so frivolous. Like you're trying to marry these girls off at 14 and you want them to idolize these men who really don't give a shit about, oh sorry I'm cussing, who don't care about their honor, and they really don't care. You know what I
And
mean?
they
Like you find like
hoes.
these beautiful gems, you know, you find these gems, and obviously the Simon and Daphne's and the Antony and Kate, but I really feel like that's Violet's brood. Like I feel like their brood is special, so that's why we only gonna get love stories with them because everybody else is trash. So
Raggedy.
while I get that coming into it, Eloise was the girl. Like yeah, that's our girl because she's literally saying everything that we're thinking. Like this is also frivolous. Like this is like rich people problems. Like what is actually where's the development? Where's the growth? Where's the humanity? So yeah, she was a character that you gravitated towards, and I definitely did. I was like, I love Eloise, that's my girl, and I love the friendship between her and Penelope. I just think I think season three, just like with Colin, I've had to see Eloise in a new light, and I've had to identify why is she getting on my nerves? Like, what is the
It's
issue?
the
Like,
one foot in, one foot out,
why
I
is
think,
she
for you.
frustrating me?
It's the one foot in, one foot
Huh?
out because she's definitely playing a 50 this season. And she says it. Like, we get so many calls to it, whether it's in the dialogue or the visuals. Like, I think it's Benedict that pointed out, like, oh, you're not going to carry your dance card, but you're going to put a ribbon in your hair this season. Like, there are certain things
Right.
that they point to of, like, she is literally one foot in and one foot out. She's not fully giving into the society thing, but she's doing the whole rigmarole, and she don't have Penelope to lean on. So she's now interacting with the society girls. But even when she talks to the society girls on the outside looking in, the mama can look over there and be like, oh, she's promenading with the girlies. But when she's over there, she's like, girl, you sewing is dumb. You playing the harp is dumb. Do any of you bitches read? Like, so she still has parts of her in her, and that part I can totally understand how you could be conflicted with her, because it's like, girl, the past 2 seasons you stood on business and you wouldn't let none of this fly. You wouldn't soften up the blow for any of this stuff, and now all of a sudden you are softening up the blow. But again, I'm going back and attributing that, and I love this complexity to the character. I'm attributing that to Penelope, and I think it's going to be the onus on the writers to, in the second half of the season, if we're going to get Eloise to a place that she doesn't end the season in a very depressing place, or a place that disappoints, then we're going to have to watch in the final 4 episodes her be able to recultivate that confidence and recultivate that conviction that she had before without Penelope, before they actually reunite, so that she will be able to have that regardless of who else is in her corner.
Yes, and I think going to that point, oh God, um, with Eloise, I feel like there is a reason why she's so gun shy in this season.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I think Penelope, she brought her back down to earth in a way that I think really has messed Eloise's up. Why she feels so off kilter. Like Penelope knocked her down like 10 pegs with the Lady Whistledown. I think whatever dreams, just like Penelope has had dreams and hopes, and I think is a very wistful, like I'm dreaming of a better life. Eloise was also that same person, and to your point, that is one of the reasons why they did bond. That's what strengthened them. This sense of like we are, yes, elevated um, from everyone else. We have a higher frequency of thinking because we can see through all of the materialistic, the looseness of what the society is built off of. And I feel like by Penelope, writing what she did, and I do really think that she was in trying to protect Eloise because it was becoming a precarious situation of like Eloise was thought to be Lady Whistledown by the Queen. Like Penelope's identity was not threatened, but I do also we're not going to act like Penelope did not gain anything from Eloise taking the blood. Like
let's sit there for a second. Let's sit there for a second because or let's specifically go down the road of she doesn't write it and the town finds out that she's in love with this newspaper boy. What's the worst that can happen?
I think in my mind, honestly, and I think I'm thinking about what Melissa said, that ultimately I don't really know it really if Eloise would have really taken such a hard hit because of the family she's in. You know, like
exactly
from a family is very affluent and they're, you know, for all intents and purposes, their mother operates as a woman who wants all of her children to find love. She doesn't want them to be in love for convenience.
And you have been screaming, girl, that you love this boy, and this is finally, of all of the people, this one would fit society for you, except for he doesn't come from your same ilk. So for me, that would have been the standing on business of like, okay, y'all want me to play y'all's game, but I'm going to do it my way. And for Penelope to be her best friend and to know that she feels this way and know she really cares about this boy, that's why I feel, and it's so funny because I got triggered, just for lack of a better word, in the group chat because Melissa, or was it you or Melissa? Somebody said Penelope did Eloise a favor. And I'm like, the favor would have been to expedite what we're going to see with Eloise, period, because I don't know if she's going to marry a man that's of their ilk. Like, girl, this is what you said. This would be the revolutionary act, and you actually like him, so like, let's do it. Like, blow the shit up.
But I think, to Melissa's point, I don't think the favor was necessarily like, oh, well, girl, like, she helped you out. Like, I don't think that was where that was coming from. I think when Melissa meant favor, I think she meant like in terms of when it came to the Queen thinking that Eloise was Lady Whistledown. Like, the Queen pulled Eloise up and was like, oh, it's you. Like,
but she's
that
wrong.
Was a very real situation. No, she's wrong, but in that moment, like, it's the Queen. So if the Queen thinks it's you and you're, for all intents and purposes, you're in places that people feel like Lady Whistledown dwells in and you're being spied on by the Queen, then it don't really matter if she's wrong or not. Like, it's the Queen. So we don't know how that would have carried out if the Queen could have found out later that it was wrong. I'm just like, I think when Melissa was saying a favor, she meant like in the dire sense of trying to help your friend out because the Queen, who is the Queen, thinks that you are Lady Whistledown. It's a wrap. So that's, I think, what Melissa meant in terms of that. I don't think she was even talking about Theo because I think that is another element. Like, yes, you know, Eloise did have feelings for this boy and vice versa. I think when I was thinking about them, I was more thinking about like, yes, I don't think she would have taken such a hit. Like, I think she would have been okay, which is why I think Melissa also mentioned that. I think that's why she also she exposed Eloise, which I don't really think was really empathetic thinking on Penelope's part, because she's a part of this affluent family, but it's just the notion is like, girl, you know it's going to be looked down upon, so you don't need to be that one. So I mean, you know, and that's she did debatable, so
without including Eloise in the decision. I think that's the biggest part. Like, I think that could have played out the same, and if Penelope would have included her in the decision making process and like clued her in, we wouldn't have had any fallout. I don't think. I think that part is the ego thing for Eloise and not being looped in. And she had been searching for this lady. She had been doing all of this, running racket, trying to figure it out for herself. Meanwhile, that is my damn best friend. Like, I think that if Penelope would have offered the information up to her, we wouldn't be experiencing what we're experiencing right now with Eloise and Penelope.
I think just to wrap up this, going to your point about the whole, like, who cares, like, you know, at the end of the day, if, you know, Eloise likes Theo and vice versa. I think I was under the, like, assumption that, like, girl, you're flirting with danger here. You're flirting with something that you can never have. Like, I realistically thought, yes, you're part of a very loving family and a very affluent one, and I don't think they could probably clean it up for you, but I don't know if they could clean it up that much. Like, I don't know if they could have essentially been in society, which, hey, they could have just been like, you know, it's not like Eloise wants to be in society anyway, so they could have just taken their ass to the countryside
and there's seven other Bridgertons.
But right, but I just feel like I'm just thinking about the kind of you know, dramatic nature of this world, and like you can't be with the, with the poor folk, you can't be with the, I'm just thinking about this time period and how, yes, she is a part of this affluent family, but I don't know how much coverage she would have necessarily had to really. I think being with Theo was a fantasy. I think she was flirting, in my eyes, with the fantasy. So there's nothing wrong with her, having feelings for Theo. And I mean, Penelope of all people would understand that. I don't even think that's the lens that Penelope was thinking of this boy. I think it just all kind of, for Penelope, and I'm not defending Penelope, but in Penelope's eyes, she's like, girl, you're in these places that Lady Whistledown is suspected to dwell. You're being spied on. And so by you going to go see Theo every single afternoon, it is putting you in the direct line of fire. So that's what, in terms of Theo, it's not about them liking each other. That's innocent. But it's more, I felt like you're flirting with danger here because I feel like you can't be with this boy. Like, and he knows that he can't be with you, which is why he cut things off. So I just felt like with that, it's like, girl, you're flirting with something you can't have, which obviously Penelope, girl, you can relate to it at some point. But I just don't think that was Penelope's mindset in terms of the Theo and Eloise element. I think she came strictly from the place of Lady Whistledown, and like
I think she wanted to save Lady Whistledown.
No, that's what I was going to say.
And her proximity to her,
like,
because once you go through Eloise and you realize that Eloise is not it, the next person that you come into is her. So that's why I'm really like, girl, 15% of it was like you trying to do something for Eloise, but you were trying to save your pet project, your baby, your precious. That's what you were trying to do.
Yeah, which I think I still got from that scene at the end of season 2. Like in season 2, like that big fight, and I think it's the actresses both played it very well and it was written very well. There was never an instance where I was more on one side than the other. I was kind of like looking at the season 2, like, Penelope, this is gonna blow up. Your girl is looking for this author that is you. This is gonna end well. And then you got the queen involved. I'm just like, Penelope, are you gonna tell her? Like, are you gonna tell her? Or are you really gonna let her? So then when she set her up for the fall, I said, "Oh, girl, really? Right. Okay, girl. I hope you're ready." So I was never like, "Oh, Penelope, yes, keep the secret, girl, yes," because I'm not attached to Lady Whistledown. Like, but Penelope is. So when you're watching Penelope, there's a sense that you have to be attached to it too, because that is a big part of this character. Yeah. But when Eloise came in there, guns a-blazing, I was like, well, this was always how it was going to end, child. Especially the exposing just put the cherry on top. It was never going to be like, as soon as you made the choice to expose her, it was a wrap. So I was just kind of looking at their argument like ping pong, because it's like you have two people who know each other very well, so you know what to hit people with, you know what to say, you know what to clock, and they both have points. But I mean, I was always 50-50. I never felt like, Penelope, oh girl, yeah, you were standing on business there. I was like, no. With the Marina situation, I said, girl, now you exposed that girl, even though Marina, I'm sorry, she had a big role to play, she was faulty, but Penelope, you was rocking with it too, and Portia, you just a raggedy ass hoe. We know this. Sorry, excuse my language.
The way I want to fight Portia
Penelope,
so bad.
Penelope,
come outside. I am going to jump you.
Mm-hmm. She could have easily just told Colin what was going on with Marina instead of exposing her on a worldwide platform. But she made the choice to do that, and I was like, "Girl, I'm not sticking beside you in that moment either. I can understand you're a wallflower. They treating you like you a buster girl, but you don't do that, okay? You don't forsake someone that you care you claim to care about. Like, this is all because you're jealous and you feel some type of way." Same thing with the Eloise thing. Like, yeah, girl, you were trying to help your friend out, and I really do believe that did play a role. Like, you really were trying to help her out, but let's not act like, if Eloise would have taken the hit for Lady Whistledown, it would have only been a matter of time. And I'm really surprised. Maybe I'm also just like, I'm surprised that a lot of y'all didn't figure it out sooner. Like, Eloise, like, bro, I'm like listening to Penelope talk like in the first 2 seasons, and I'm like, y'all weren't listening, because it's the same rhythm. So with Colin, I guess I don't really care. I don't really care like how his reaction is in part 2, because I'm like, she writes her ass to Phil, and then what came out the next day? A Lady Whistledown article. So if you're not cluing in, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, she's smart, but she's not that smart. Like,
so hang in here for a second real quick, because I wrote a couple notes. because I
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit more smoke for Penelope than I had when I watched it on the first
Wait, do we want to
watch.
watch the? Do we want to
Well,
watch the
this is
scene
just
together?
about Lady Whistledown real quick, because less
Oh,
about
oh,
the
oh,
Eloiseness
okay,
of it all. Season
okay, okay.
1, episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Penelope slash Lady Whistledown starts it off calling her
Mm-hmm.
own family tacky as hell and frumpy and all of the things. Like, ma'am, you were controlling the narrative from the beginning and you chose to speak certain ways, and then I'm supposed to feel bad that the town is now doubling down on these stereotypes that have been attached to your family that your ass literally has the power to either push forward and or squelch, and you decide to push it forward. And then she consistently, throughout the rest of the season, antagonizes the damn queen, which brought me to again with the whole Eloise Theo and outing not only just Marina, but the Eloiseness of it all. You brought the queen circumstance upon y'all's doorstep, ma'am. You actively antagonized this lady on purpose. You literally, quite literally, controlled the narrative of the town, and you chose to say what you said. Starting off in episode 1 with calling your family frumpy and tacky as hell. I said, wait a damn minute, did I not catch this the first
You
time?
did do that.
You put the
She has
Bridgertons on
been
a
controlling the
pedestal from the
narrative.
jump, and then turned around in the next sentence and called the Feathertons a tacky. I said, what the fuck? So Penelope, step on up and take your
This is
accountability, honey,
true.
because part of this is a jail of your own making.
I mean, it is kind of like, I mean, it's going back to it's the beast that you thought you could control in the beginning, but then when you realize certain narratives take shape, and if we're saying that Lady Whistledown is such an influential force in the ton, and you created it to be like you created it to be more of your powerful self, to be something that was beyond you, an extension of you, that you could channel all of the things that you can't do as a wallflower. Like it was an opportunity for you to get off the wall, figuratively and not realistically in real life. So you can't necessarily, like, now that the beast multiplied, like that was always where we get to in season 3 was always going to be the point. It was always going to get to a point where, girl, you cannot control this. And to be honest, I don't think you really had the wherewithal. I mean, obviously not, girl. You are a young woman. You were a young girl when you probably started Lady Whistledown. You're a young woman now. That's why, some of her posts are so impulsive, because, girl, you are still trying to figure it out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like you never really had the capability to deal with this beast in the first place, which is why it is now a beast beyond your own making, because I think it was always meant to be. Because you're right, she has been controlling the narrative from the very beginning. And part of the reason why the ton sees your family, that, like, even if I think the ton had already had their preconceived notions of the Featheringtons. I mean, they do appear the way that they appear. Like, that's not
But you gave
made
them the
up.
language to
But
use against you.
you weaponized it. You know this. You know how the ton does see you, and whether it's preconceived notions or not, you as a major voice in this ton, if I'm saying that it is the voice for the toxic nature of the ton, you are the main representative of it. You are the catalyst. You are the ability for the ton, the machine to keep going.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it kind of ties into and I thought it was a harsh dig at Penelope when Eloise said it, but it is giving girl an insipid wallflower indeed, because, girl, you know what you're doing.
And
You
you
know
got
what
more
you're doing,
power than you trying
girl.
to play, like, girl. And I guess that, like, as we're like unpacking it, what is coming up for me is like, I think if she would have spent more time, I think, with Lady Whistledown in the first half of this, and like using that as the weapon that it could have been, while still towing the line of like not trying to reveal herself, versus the moments where I felt like she was still putting in a little bit too much effort and thought into Colin, and then we got to see Colin pursue her. I feel like this would have gone over a lot better, because she would have been working on something that she's going to have to deal with anyway, with the manifestation of Lady Whistledown. And then we would have gotten to see Colin need to come a little bit further to like meet her where we're at the end of episode 4, versus her giving him, I think, a couple bridges to help him along the way, when we still got very real things that she needs to deal with internally. Because, baby, you talk shit about your family this entire time, and you could have literally at any point, even this season, you don't know how to be yourself, but you can relish in Lady Whistledown. You ain't dropping not a damn little peep about a funny joke that Lady Featherton said, that, or Little Miss Featherton, whatever you would be dubbed as, to like put in people's mind that there's a little bit more to you, or like just kind of pique their interest, period. Girl, like, Penelope, please.
But also, it's like, you do what works. And I think that at this stage in the game, it's way too late for you to try to show a new color. And that, like, the ton wants what they want, and like I said, it's a representative of the toxic nature that is the society, that is the ton, that is this world that has been created for these toxic, behaviors and thought processes. That it's very much mirroring real life, in that sense. And I think that, I think it's like we said, it's a beast that's beyond her control. I think that is what's easy. That is what is safe, and that is what protects her from, as soon as she starts to show a little bit of color and a little bit of personality, that mask is gone. And that's the whole point of this second half, is like, girl, if you truly want to exist now, and I don't mean just be, but to exist, you're gonna have to let it go. Yeah. You're gonna have to take it off and throw it away, because it has become something that, like you mentioned, has become a crutch. It has become another codependent relationship, and it's hurting people. Yeah. It is hurting people. Whether I feel like, do I really care about what's being said? I don't necessarily. I'm not as invested, but there are certain things that she's like exposing Eloise and the Marina situation. Like, yes, girl, those did hurt people. That yeah, we can say all day, yeah, girl, Marina, you was out here wilding. Like, while I understand the motivations, and I do understand that, Portia was a big part, if not the main part of like the whole lie in season 1. Penelope, like I said, you didn't need to be that one. You did not need to be the one. That didn't need to come from you. You could have easily just went to Colin, and if you really care about this man, rather than being so adamant about keeping the mask on and using the mask to like get off emotions that you are too insecure to actually feel in real time, then it becomes a little less valid.
Yep.
So, I think that's why we're both in agreement. We're at the place where, Lady Whistledown, girl, it can't be you no more. If it's somebody, get someone else to do it. Like, get someone else to do it. I don't know.
Do you want to be happy? Then you're going to have to go pick somebody else.
Right. And even though, like,
Lady
you are
Whistledown can't be a joy in your world no more, honey.
No, even though the ton is easily you can easily criticize it, and there's a lot wrong there. It's like, girl, at the end of the day, like, you got to let it go. Like, it can't be the main thing that's keeping you going anymore, because it's just, it's becoming a hindrance. Yeah. So, like, I don't think the ton can really survive without Lady Whistledown. So I just don't think it needs to be Penelope. But I also don't know who has the capabilities to even spit
Eloise.
Like Lady was like Penelope does. So I just don't know. Like,
Eloise can take it over.
What they do. Eloise, girl, bye. She don't need to touch Lady. She don't need to touch Lady Whistledown. She need to go find something else to do. That's what I want. Okay? I want her to get out of the ton in society. I think she needs a break.
I don't know. I think
so that I can,
here.
We can come back together.
I feel like she can really grit her teeth here in the town, and it's gonna make her develop conviction.
Oh, girl.
It's gonna make her develop conviction. I'm not mad at it. I ain't even
Why doesn't she create her own thing?
Well, that's interesting, because as you were talking, I was like, I wonder, because I haven't read the books. And shout out to Perspective Plans. They said I'm late, but the commentary is so insightful, starting to feel like I should read the books. Listen, Naya has read the books. I have not, so I'm just out here freeballing with what I see.
I have not read Eloise's. I actually have not read Eloise's yet, so I'm actually interested. Like, after this season, I'm very interested to see who this next season is going to be. I don't think they have any more room to play around with Benedict's story anymore, especially because they have written him into a corner, and I'm not feeling it. It's gone stale, and they need to make him the next season, or it's going to be an issue. Okay, Eloise needs to be.
I don't care about Benedict yet, but also, okay. Well, real quick before we go into that, because we're going to talk about predictions. while you were
Okay.
talking before about Lady Whistledown, I'm like, how does Penelope get out of Lady Whistledown without blowing up her life and with protecting herself? And I'm like, she starts her own competitor. So I can't see Eloise starting something new if we also would have Penelope starting something new and trying to go about it in like the positive way. Like this is something I'm like completely making up because again, I haven't read the books, but I would be very interested to see Penelope try to transition out without getting caught in the tension of that and like trying to do it the cleaner way, the less toxic way, and getting the rejection and all of that because she's very much so entering into an era where you just got picked by Colin, you look better to the town, you lost some weight, like you are seemingly like a diamond amongst your frumpy ass family, but she could still experience rejection. We can see how much her character has grown if that was a thing that she did, because they would not be taking the positivity the same way that y'all be talking about the shade room and y'all ass still be following it. I'm just saying.
Lady Whistledown is the shade room.
Yes.
It
But
is
that could
Gossip
be
Girl.
cool to me. That could be really cool to me. Before her whole life blows up, if she tries to start like a platonic clean paper and nobody is checking for it, I would love that.
It's hard for me to make a prediction about it because I read the book.
Yeah.
So there's what happens in the book and then what they choose to do at the end of the season. I have read from the showrunner that they do want Colin and Penelope in future seasons naturally, and that the Lady Whistledown, like what kind of transpires after this reveal, like there's a lot more story there. So going to your point, how they develop what really becomes of Lady Whistledown, what does that look like? I think this interesting idea of like, why is Lady Whistledown the only thing that y'all are reading? Like, why is this your source material? Like, get some new source material. So I think kind of ushering like what news is, what newspapers are, newsletters, like having multiple different sources of it where it's not all salacious. It's just either it's a travel memoir or it's, like it kind of ushering this new age of like journalism and like what happened, obviously, in America, like how that came to be, like newspapers and newsletters and all these things. Like, how does that happen in this world? So I think they would be remiss if they didn't open that up because, Penelope is always being Whistledown could only go on for so long. Like it like we said, it's grown beyond her. It's like it's kind of gotten to this point where, girl, you are a one-woman machine and it's not working for you because you can't do everything all at once. Like, newspapers, newsletters, they require a team. You don't just have one person writing, putting it out, taking it to the the office or whatever. So I think that's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season. So I'm just kind of like, when this comes out, what happens after the fallout? After we get through the trenches of Colin feeling some type of way and we finally, hopefully, bridge this gap between Eloise and Penelope, and maybe Eloise can understand Penelope a little bit better and Penelope can understand Eloise a little bit better on in a more healthy way, where it's not, it's not confused and all this extra layers and stuff. When we get to the end of this, what does that look like? What is the new normal moving into the next season?
And we're going to take a really quick break, y'all. But that's what I've been waiting. My dog appreciates it because he's like, where's my food, ma'am? And I had to use the restroom. So there's that. But we're back. And before we get into predictions, before we get into future seasons, also feel free to drop your comments because I will go back in and be reading comments as we get ready to wrap this up. We're going to talk about the other elements that we didn't focus that much on just yet, but it's still very much so very important, like our good sis, Francesca. Go ahead now. I'm going to let you go first because I'm loving what Mama putting down. I'm loving everything about it.
Oh, I love her so much. Just to give some behind the scenes context, the actress was replaced. So the actress that played Francesca for the first two seasons, which it kind of helps because they kind of just have Francesca in the background. Like she would pop in and say a little something and you're like, oh girl, yeah, you are one of the siblings. But I mean, shout out to the actress. She had another opportunity on Netflix and I think the schedules got wired, so she just had to drop out. So who they have as Francesca now, she goes by Hannah Dodd, and I just love, this was the perfect time to introduce her character, and I just love her so much because she is so different. And what I do love that they are expanding on is the just the differences of these siblings. Like not all of these siblings are the same. And Francesca is like Eloise, very different from the ton, from her family, and I just enjoy that no one can figure her out. I think the struggle with
Yeah.
Violet this season is she cannot figure her daughter out. She can clock Anthony, she can clock Daphne, she can
Yep.
clock Colin, she can clock all of her other kids. But Francesca, even Eloise, is a challenge for her, but she knows who Eloise is.
Mm-hmm.
Francesca is such an anomaly, and it's so interesting to watch because she really is like the queen of introverts. And as an introvert, I've
Yeah.
become more of an introvert as I've gotten older. As an introvert, the way that I love Francesca and John Sterling's story so much, like I love them so much.
Them
They are
being
my
perfectly
babies.
happy sitting in silence is just like
In
goals.
silence. And what, oh my God, it's so good. And what's so funny is so many people are like that I've seen. This is like also part of the criticism. Oh, Francesca's like it's just not giving. Like I don't understand what's going on, and I'm like that's the whole point. I think you guys don't understand what's going on because you're not used to this. You're used to kind of these toxic displays of love, and I'm not saying Simon and Daphne and Kate and Anthony's where it was, but I think in their sense, like I think I said prior, they have a more explosive, intense, in your face fireworks. Like, it's more of a dire situation with those couples. And with Francesca and John's storyline, it's such an amazing example of how love can be very quiet, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be the love affair is because of the silence. And there's something so beautiful about seeing the two of them. It was confusing to me at first because I'm just like, oh, we're just sitting in silence and it's working for me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like I don't think
Yeah.
I ever thought that we would see it on screen. So I don't know, like I just think the choice is there for Francesca's storyline. If this was the setup for her story later on down the line, I think they're starting off great. And I am really invested in Francesca and John. And like I said, I just think they're the perfect example of people being introverts. And I think this whole notion of Violet's obviously fighting back so hard against it, like not like in verbal sense, but you can see that she's trying to like get her daughter out of a shell that I don't think Francesca needs to get out of. I think this notion of having someone who is the opposite but compliments you like a Kate and Anthony is not what Francesca needs. And I think she directly says, like, I don't know if I need like that kind of love. Like,
Yeah.
while I understand it's rare, like I don't think I need that. I think I need something else. And
But to
you see her
Violet's
trying to
point,
figure it out.
yeah. But to
You
Violet's
see her
point,
trying to
I
figure
think
it
it's
out.
I think to her credit, I will say she's also trying to be mindful of her own nature this season. So she's trying to do what she
That's
thinks is
true.
best, but then also still trying to temper that because she's realized how she's been right in a lot of ways, but then when she's wrong, it could be damn detrimental. So I think that also is providing a very interesting coloring to watching them go back and forth and watching Violet specifically navigate Francesca. But I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, yeah, I think this leads into prediction. So I feel like Violet right now it's very subtle, but especially at the end of episode 4, Francesca's so giddy because John literally like rewrites this piece that she was like ranting and raving about when they met up
Horrible
like
on the on
prior,
the street.
and
It was
she was
horrible.
on the
It's just
street
it's
and she
chaotic.
was
It's
like,
messy.
this is wrong and this note and this needs to be here and this needs to be there, and he's just like, oh, okay. And he runs off. And little did we know, he like literally rewrites this song. It like takes all of the notes that she just said, but it's so awkward and like, oh my God, like what the hell is going on? Like that. I
And
think that
that's
was
the
one of the notes. I was
brilliance
like,
of
wait, what's going
them.
on?
Naya, I love
Yeah,
that you
and
pointed
so
out how quiet their particular love story is because it's quiet and it's their own, but it still has conflict. It still has the giddy butterflies. It still has the moments where she don't know what he thinking and he don't know what she thinking, but it comes out and they're communicating it in a nonverbal way, and it's so brilliant because it speaks to the universality of falling in love.
yes, and I love that. I really do. I think to have what's going on with Colin and Penelope, which is gonna, that's gonna cater to a certain audience. But
Mm-hmm.
to have Francesca and John's also in the same season, I just think it's gold. And then you even have like Will and you know Mondriches and like what they have like as an established married couple, and you know, but you have like these different dynamics going on within one season, and I think it's masterfully done, I really think. And I think going to the Violet point, I think it's going to become more of an issue in the next part. I
Mm.
think it's happening internally for Violet right now. I think she sees that her daughter is taken by this man, and her daughter has, you know, it feels things for this man, like there's a connection there, but I don't know, like I don't think she's over the moon for it in the way that I think she's going to be over the moon for Colin and Penelope. So I think, I wonder
Hmm.
if that's going to be a dichotomy that like that is where it's going to come to a head for Francesca and Violet. I think Violet is trying to temper how she's moving with her kids this season because of maybe how hard she pushed Eloise in
Yeah.
the season prior, but I think it's brewing. But I
That's
think it's going to happen in a
interesting.
new. I think it's going to happen in a new way, which I think is a credit to the writing. I don't think it's going to feel like a copy and paste or feel hollow. I think it's not like Violet's concerns aren't valid in the sense of like, is this man really going to challenge you to show up a little bit differently or like maybe get out of your shell? I think that's a real thing. But I think I also have an issue with extroverts trying to get introverts out of their shell so much. And I just feel like if introverts are happy and the shell is not impeding them, then let them be, because it seems like Francesca has a sense of self and John does. They just don't show up like everybody else, and
Yeah.
that's not a crime. So I
Yeah.
think that's also my thing of like I can see the hesitancy on Violet, and I think she's gonna have to reframe it as well, like reframe what she thinks love is going to look like. Because I think it
Hmm.
also plays to her point, like so when this is going to Colin, but I think this kind of correlates with this. When he asks her about what she's looking for, like what she wants Francesca to find, and you know, she's like, oh, you know, I want what I wanted for Daphne, what I wanted for Anthony, you know, passion, a love that fulfills, you know. And he was like, oh, but I thought, like, you know, you thought that friendship was the best foundation. And she's like, yeah, I mean, that's how it happens for me and your dad. So I think even in that conversation, understanding that there are different representations of love. And I think even Violet's having to reframe that. And I think Francesca's storyline is going to be the catalyst for that. And also on a greater level, like this notion of like love appears in different ways, and
Yeah.
love is, it's different for everyone. It appears different for everyone, and there's something still so beautiful about the stillness and like the fact that Francesca feels the most at peace and the most safe and the most calm, just sitting in silence with this man that she doesn't even know like that, but it's they do know each other because he's comfortable sitting in silence as well. Like I just it's giving what it needs to give,
It
certainly. And I do
is.
also, it's just I
And
love that
I
they
don't
do also
know. I
seem
haven't.
like,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, oh no, I was just gonna say I do also love this kind of this inclination or this kind of like subtle. I think they're both neurodivergent. Like I
Uh
think
huh.
there's kind of like they do operate on a different frequency, which I think just makes it even more excellent,
Yep.
because I feel like I can get those hints there that they don't really their frequency is different than everyone else's, and that's why they connect, because they can clock it and they can feel it and they can see it and identify like, oh yeah, this works, this person is the same. And I
Yeah.
mean, I love it, I love them so much.
I I
Like
I
really.
agree with a lot. I agree with a lot you're saying. And not reading the book, so I ignorance is bliss a little bit. I kind of assume where we're at, at the end of episode 4, that we're going to get more of like of Francesca, getting with John, but I don't see Violet being any type of issue or conflict, because I think that she's going to be distracted by making sure that POLIN happens, then it's beautiful and it's amazing and whatever, and then she's going to be falling in love herself. So if anything, I feel like there might be some conflict in Francesca not getting the same treatment as Colin, because she has all these other things going on, and it's like, you wanted me to find love and I did, you just don't understand it, so you might be brushing it up under the rug and thinking that it's less than, but I want all of the
That's it.
things as well. You get
That's
what I'm
it.
saying?
That's it. Yeah, I think that's the conflict as well. That's the, yeah. There is going to be, I think, a clear difference for Francesca. The more she's like puts her foot in, you know, about
Yeah.
wanting to pursue John, I think she's gonna see, okay, why is the energy different with Colin and Penelope and it's not the same for me? And I found love. You've been, all you talk to us about is about finding a love match. I have found that I do love this man. Like, I love the way that he makes me feel. Why is that not enough? I think
Yeah.
that is going to be the conflict, and I don't hate it.
I don't
Because,
hate
like
it
I said,
either. Because
it's having to
it's a
reframe.
progression. It's a progression specifically for Violet, because while you can still be the well-intentioned mom who understands love and is pushing for your kids to have something different within this very suffocating society, it's natural as a human to, you have two kids now going into marriages, and the one that you lean more into and that you're more excited about, or you're at least outwardly excited about, is the one that you understand the best, which naturally makes you pull away or not show up as clearly or as much for the one that you don't fully understand. And it's not to her fault. It doesn't feel like, it won't be a regression. It would just point out a blind spot, which I think a lot of her kids have done each season, which has been a really, really interesting level of like additional character arc for what is basically like a D or E story for real. But I enjoy Violet. So to even see that play out, or to be anticipating that, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Francesca to get her love match, for it to be non-typical, and people have to wrestle with that. But I'm down with it, and I'm riding 10 toes down. Both of y'all get behind me, because this is all we need. Y'all see each other, y'all are aligned, y'all want to go the same place. That's the whole damn point of this thing. Your mama might not get it, but you finna learn her the same way that Eloise had to learn her, the same way that Daphne had to learn her. Like, yeah.
Hmm. I just think we're gonna gravitate to the characters who are so outside the norm. I just think I'm always gonna identify with those characters. I'm always gonna root for those characters. I love that Francesca just immediately was like, we're like, when we first are introduced to her, obviously, it's her time to like be presented to the queen, and the whole, the diamonds business. And in comparison to like Daphne, who was ready for it, who was looking forward to it, who relished in it. And then, Eloise, who was like so adamantly against it, and it was a fight to like the death. We had Francesca, who was just like, girl, just playing her piano and playing it beautifully, and just being like, y'all ready to go? Because I already ate breakfast, and I mean, if this is what we got to do, then fine. But I'm still gonna do what I'm still gonna do my own thing, like
It's
regardless.
so
Like, okay,
brilliant to me.
present me to the queen, but I really don't care because I'm gonna do me regardless.
She's
So
literally the
I
midway
love her.
between Daphne and Eloise, and it's so like she
Yeah,
looks so porcelain and just like innocent, just like
beautiful.
Daphne, and she's buying into the societal expectations just enough to go along
Just
with it.
enough.
But she still wants to do
Hmm.
her own damn thing, and she has her own mind, and she don't really give a damn if you actually agree, which is all Eloise. And I'm just like, this character is actually phenomenal, because I didn't even know I needed a mashup. But hey, I don't know what Hyacinth is gonna do, honey, because where is there to go next?
I don't know. It's
Her,
gonna be interesting to see. Like, I think this show has Netflix isn't letting this go. There's no way. Like, there's no way
yeah,
they don't finish out all the love stories. They would be a fool not to. And then just imagine like just the universe that Shonda has created with creating Queen Charlotte, and how masterful that was. There's no way that this universe does not just continue to like expand. So it'll be very interesting when we get down to the younger ones. But with Francesca, I actually have not read her book. So I
mm-hmm.
have heard stuff about it. I have heard that there's quite a bit going on there. So Francesca and John, we will be in for a ride. But I'm on the ride. Okay, I am here. I am a supporter. Get behind me and Erica
Period.
because we're here for it. Okay, and it's such a breath of fresh air. Um, it's such a breath of fresh air in this season. Like I that is a side plot that I am 100% here for. I do not think that it takes away from the whatever the main story, the love story going on, but it does just enough to make it stand alone, and it services the
Yeah,
overall tone of the season. So
for
it's a side
sure.
plot that is probably one of my favorite, like probably one of my favorite next to the Mondrich
For
storyline.
sure.
Yes.
And I'm not
Yeah.
fully bought into the pollenness of it all, for all of the reasons that I mentioned in the previous 2 hours. So if you want to know that, go and rewind if you're just popping in. But I do think things like Francesca and John, Francesca and how Violet is navigating her, even Lady Whistledown and her brother reemerging, Eloise and Penelope, all of the other things that are happening around. While at times it can feel like it's too much, I do think that those things are actually saving the season for me. And another little nod that I think Shonda was really, really intentional about is the inclusivity. We get to see disabled people this season. We get to see people who are deaf. We get to see, Francesca and John, who are seemingly on the spectrum in some capacity. And it's dope. It's like fully Bridgerton as a world, or the world of Bridgerton, has already been very colorful, but to see these different people with different identities was something that I didn't realize that we actually needed. But when it came on screen, I was like, yes, I love this. Actually, give me more.
But it feels so. It feels so normalized too. Like, just like, you look and you're not even like, oh, wow. It's just so like, this is the world. Like, this is what you would want to see. This is the, the typical world that I would want to be in. And you have like a lord who, yes, happens to be in a wheelchair, but we need to give him his moment. Like, I want to see him come up in part 2, because I was like, yes, sir, I am here for you. I love you. And I remember he came on the screen and I was just like, I'm just in the scene, because I'm just like, they just did such a masterful job of, it doesn't feel like inclusivity just to do it, like just to put it in there to like check off some box. It works.
Yeah.
It feels like intertwined with the character dynamics and the story, and it just makes Bridgerton, it kind of grounds it a bit in a way that I've always had the argument and the stance of Bridgerton it's not meant for historical accuracy. It's not meant for you to feel like this don't align with history, and actually what was going on in this time period. That's not what Bridgerton is about. It is about the immersiveness. It is about the fantasy. It is about the romance. It is about the escapism. But I do love that if they are going to make certain things feel grounded to real life and make certain things feel realistic, it's done in a way that makes sense. And it services, yes, it's still escapism, but you still feel like, okay, this feels attainable. This feels like I can connect and resonate.
It's not just fantasy for neurotypical people.
Fantasy, yep. And it has something for everyone. And I think, while the side plots, I think when the side plots take away from their own stories and then takes away from the tone and the rhythm of the season, and takes away from the main love story, which obviously that's the bigger plot, that's where it starts to impede for me. And that's when I'm like, okay, some of these side plots are not necessary. I still feel like there's some side plots in the season that it's just too much.
Wait, which one?
But I think the show is an ensemble show. As much as it is, you are tuning in every season to see what love story is next. It is an ensemble show where I think it's important to have different jumping points, so that if you're not resonating with Colin and Penelope, you have Francesca and John, you have the Mondriches, you have something else to feel invested and feel like this is worth my while. And that is important. And that is a testament to the writers, the creatives, Shondaland, how they've been able to weave such an expansive world within the greater, bigger one. And I just think it constantly amazes me what they do every season. Certain things, we can talk about criticisms and what we would like certain things to be better, but I think in terms of it being an ensemble in the way that the stories that they do choose to focus on, like, they all have a place for someone. It don't work for everybody, and sometimes it can be, like I said, it can impede. There's something for everyone, and overall, I think that's important with a show like
fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic overall. Consistently fantastic, for sure.
Consistently, yes.
Let's talk about the Mondriches for a little bit, because they are also a very prominent part in this season, as we're getting to see them basically class climb, for lack of better words, because their eldest son is the next heir to the Kent estate. And they are having to grapple with they're having to grapple with walking into that particular elevation, I'm trying to come up with words.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
class elevation provided to them, and specifically Mr. Mondrich is not trying to let go of his bar, and I'm kind of standing on business with him with that. The same way that you could keep your damn dresses, the same way that y'all could sleep in the same bed, because yes, you are coming into a certain house that had certain things, but at what point do you stop and make sure that you are not giving up all of your identity just so that you can fit into a mold that doesn't actually even work, which I think is a really brilliant allegory, an internal allegory for the overall story of Bridgerton, because I think that Bridgerton is a social commentary in reference to that particular point. But I'm standing with him of like, he don't gotta give up this damn bar, and I want to know how y'all get all this money any damn way. Y'all don't work, so it's given who's working in the fields for y'all's asses back in y'all's towns, in y'all's countrysides, and who's, now, listen here, little people.
Listen, I'm standing on business too. Will, get behind me, baby. Get behind me, baby, because they trying to take it away from you, and we said no. We said, because I'm like, why? He don't got to give up a damn thing. Because if Penelope can hold on to Lady Whistledown, now Will can have his bar. He can have that because he worked for it before they were on the come up. And while I love Black people, especially in this time period, stepping into wealth, getting what I feel like is deserved. I feel like it's given reparations at this point. But I while I'm here for it, I do think like they can both exist. Like if we're watching the Bridgertons fall in love season after season, and for all intents and purposes, they're not going by societal rules. They try, but they fail.
Kate said,
they are falling in love.
We don't need to do this. Can we we gotta go another 4 months. I'm sorry. We up out of here. Kate said,
they said we gotta be who? Nah, we taking this extended. Nah, like they learned their lesson, and I'm here for it. Okay, but I just feel like if we can see the Bridgertons be outside of the norm, where they fall in love for all intents and purposes, and it's not by society, society's thinking. It's not traditional. Then there's no reason why that cannot apply to other characters in the universe. There's no reason why Will cannot work to continue to sustain the wealth that yes they have come into, but you don't know what can happen. So yes,
and even if he doesn't work, why can't he still own it? Like maybe maybe you don't need to be the one pouring the drinks. Let that go. But you could be seated in your establishment watching all your patrons be serviced.
Right. I think that's also a question. I don't know if they're going to answer that in part 2, but I would like to know, like, when Lady Danbury was telling, I think her name is Alice Mondrich, the wife, she's beautiful, by the way, love her. But when they were having this conversation, and I think they're at the ball, and Lady Danbury's like, well, he should be here with you because the queen is not going to she's going to frown upon him, continuing to work, like straddling the fence, so to speak. And I'm just like, but like, why can't he just own it? Because that would just be a business that like that's his, and that's like that would make him also a man of stature. So like, what's the issue? Like, I'm not getting it.
And this is also why I am not just that ready to throw Lady Danbury's brother away, because she don't got no words for him, because she also has that terrible ass advice. Ma'am, both you and the queen have done atypical things throughout y'all's damn journey to get to the goal of where you was trying to go, and now all of a sudden we need to adhere when this is already something that is not actually that normal.
Right,
like they are stewards over this little lord. Like.
Yeah, like them even existing in the position, like, come on, in what world, like, do you have a Black queen? And you have Lady Danbury be a lady of stature as well. So, like, to even hear it coming from those two, it's like, can you just give your brother a break, okay?
And like, if you're not gonna give your brother a break, at least give Alice a break and stop putting this goofiness in her head, because you're gonna get her without a damn husband, I fear.
You sure are, because Will is standing on business. As soon as she's like, he was just like, don't get beside yourself. Okay, I'm not giving up my bar.
He worked hard for that. He sacrificed a lot for that. Somebody died for that.
Someone died for that, indeed. So it's like, you gonna let him have his bar. So I kind of feel like, well, I do like the conflict there of seeing a different side and seeing a different element, and that's another kind of grounding I think force of the season as well. Like that also kind of brings things back to reality.
Yeah.
Would this be, I wonder if would this be an issue, if it wasn't a black family? You have to you have
Mm.
to also come into play that black people have to play by different rules. That is something that is implied in Bridgerton. It has been addressed even with the conversation, that infamous conversation with Simon and Lady Danbury that I always remember. But there's different rules to play, and I wonder if that also contributes to it as well, because I don't know if y'all would be pestering no white family about if he wanted to own this damn bar and still
Ooh.
be going to the balls, because if it's all for the sake of him showing up at these balls, he can go be at his bar from 9 to 5 and come to the balls from 7 to 10 and
But
be just fine. It's not killing y'all.
But
It's not killing
CT,
y'all.
CT, this is already Francesca, your husband. Yes, it's already spilling tea because he said he's only going to what he's mandatorily obligated to go to, which tells me that we don't actually have to be at all these goofy ass balls.
No, because all anyone cares about is titles. So it really shouldn't matter if, if he's at the bar. I don't even think it matters. If he wants to work at the bar 1 day a week and go pour some drinks for these people, then that shouldn't really matter either. But for the
Period.
notion of can he just own it? Can he just own it? I don't get what the issue is, but I
Y'all
do
got
like the
big
storyline.
beef. Y'all got big beef for Will having a business, being an entrepreneur, but you letting every man run up and down to this goddamn brothel, having having all types of orgies and everything else, and ain't nobody coming to shut that down. Child,
Okay,
if y'all let that man have his bar,
let him have his bar. But I love the conflict there, and I do love just seeing them more. Like I
yeah,
really
for
do. So,
sure.
um, that is a storyline that I do love that side plot. Um, Child, you brought it up because I feel like I'm taking hits. I'm taking subliminal. I'm getting hit and getting shots because
Wait,
I don't buy what Lady Danbury's brother is giving. And
oh,
yet, and I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm just saying I need to see more because to me, his head is given too shiny.
his head is
I can say
shiny
I'm a little bit triggered. I'm a little triggered by Billy Milk Dud,
with a
and
great
his
tea
antics.
and
So,
a beautiful smile, honey.
yeah, like I understand he is very beautiful, but I'm also getting very beautiful in chocolate from Will and John Sterling. So I don't really need this man for that. I want to
But
know
Violet needs this
what
man
is your
here. Violet needs this man.
now. If he clears the background check, then he can have her. But until I understand why my auntie is not feeding for her brother, then I'm going to have to be like, you need to be cleared first. I'm not buying because you are a beautiful chocolate man. You smile a little bit too big, and you're obviously interested in what Violet has going on because you should be interested in what Violet's going on. Violet is that girl, so you get points for that. So that's my thing. I'm just hesitant because I just want to know what your intentions are and why your
That's
sister does
fair.
not like you.
That's
That's
fair.
my
I
thing.
just think Lady Danbury can sometimes be an unreliable narrator. Well intentioned, but she can be a very unreliable narrator.
Especially in season 2, Charles, she was not helpful in terms of what was going on with Kate. So
Listen here, lady. So,
maybe
so if I see this nice
y'all sit
chocolatey
this one
man with
out.
these great teeth saying all the right things, about to give Violet the stern, go ahead. I see nothing wrong. Proceed.
Listen, I'm like this close to giving it to him just for Violet's sake. Like I want her to
She
experience love, and I want her to have
deserves.
her water flower because I feel like she is overworked and underpaid dealing with these big headed ass kids. Um, but I need to know more. I need more
Yeah.
context because he's giving me teeth and chocolatey and eyes and face, but I need to know what's beyond that
What
because
goes next?
it's giving your sister don't even want to have breakfast with you. So I want to know why.
Mm.
Because we've
I
been with
feel like
Lady
Melissa
Danbury a
might
little
be
longer.
right. Melissa might be right in reference to, or I think it might have been Melissa that said it. Maybe it was you. I think she might be right that it's going to touch on the whole initial marriage thing. I think that might be
Mm,
what she's holding on to.
I agree. I think there's probably because I was when Melissa said it, I was like, was that mentioned in?
Queen Charlotte.
Wait, I don't know. I don't know if we're confusing. I don't know if they necessarily mentioned the dynamic between Lady Danbury and her brother and Queen Charlotte. I know we saw it with Queen Charlotte and her brother. So I would have to go back and
You're
rewatch
right.
because you know what
I
I
just
mean? I
gave
would
them
have to
the
go back and
whole
rewatch
story. You're right.
because there was also that
That is
dynamic
Queen
between
Charlotte's
Charlotte and her
brother.
brother.
But wait,
So I don't know
was
if we
that what
actually
they
know.
connected on initially? Their brothers putting them in those marriages, and Queen
I
Charlotte
don't
happened to
think
be
that
one that
was.
actually aligned, and Lady Danbury was like, "This was not."
I don't think so. I don't. When I'm thinking about it, I don't. I don't think that's how they connected. I don't
I'll
really
take
think we mentioned.
any reason to rewatch Queen Charlotte, because that's number one for me
Yeah,
in the whole Bridgerton universe.
yeah. So that's TBD. In my when I like my immediate
I'm
thought
glad you
is
pointed
no.
that
I don't
out.
think we get any. We don't get any context about Lady Danbury's brother. So that could be an interest. I mean, Melissa could be onto something before we even know. Like that could be maybe Lady Danbury had her own
Story,
situation where she
yeah,
wanted to get away from her circumstance and did not want to marry this old raggedy man that they had her married to in Queen Charlotte, Lord Danbury, and her brother somehow interfered with that and somehow forced her, got involved and had her, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
that could be the reason, but I don't know if that was even really addressed in Queen Charlotte, if I can remember.
I can't remember it
So
either. If y'all can remember,
Melissa
drop
might
it in
be
the comment
Oracle.
section. Let us know, or
Yes,
if you
please drop
watching
in the
in the
comments.
chat, tell us what you think. Why Lady Danbury has issues with her brother, her fine ass
Mm-hmm.
brother. Mm.
Because Melissa might be an oracle child. She might have hit the nail on the nail on the
On the
head there
head,
about
yeah.
why Lady Danbury is not seeing it for him. So that's my thoughts about him. I don't mind the that's a side plot as well. I would say I think that one's a little bit more subtle, just because we don't really know about him too much. But you can obviously see there's something there. So I do enjoy that just because we love Violet and we want her to find love. It's about time. And this notion that another depiction of love and how you can find it twice. And
Yep.
you can find it when you're older. Like there's no expiration date on love. She had this beautiful love with Edmund. It was cut short. Having to heal from that has been a lot. That's been a part of the journey. But being able to open yourself up to love again and maybe kind of reframing it for yourself, I think is also a very beautiful message,
Yeah.
that you can kind of take from Violet and this man that needs to clear the background check for me first. Um, but yes, I do. I would say those three plus the Featherington storyline, because it is not as annoying as the in season two, where I felt like it was taking away from the
The
main
main.
story and the development of the Sharmas, which I felt like should have been the main story. I mean, side plot. But the Featheringtons this season are needed because of the levity, because of the fact
They
that
still not
they
telling these girls a
are
damn thing, honey. Cause how the hell y'all
they're
been
not
married
telling
for
them.
months? Months. Talking about you be kissing and stuff. Y'all
And
get
the
y'all
only
simple
saving
asses
grace
on.
for Penelope is that Penelope reads. So I think although Penelope, yes, is a virgin, I think she knows what feels good and what doesn't. Like she might not know the actual act, but there's something about Penelope that gives in the dark. But that's because she
A
has
hundred
forced
percent.
herself to
You
be
know what? You know how that
intellectually.
registered for me though. When she went out for the first lesson, she was behaving like her damn mama with them men. I was like, Penelope, who the hell is this? She was getting all stuttery and weird and like making these goofy, like I was just like, girl, not you channeling Portia. We don't do that. I'm gonna need you to channel somebody else. You got plenty of examples, honey. You better pull from a book. That first lesson when Colin was like, not on me, on them, and then she went over there and I get it that she was nervous and everything, but I swear I saw a young Portia and I said, oh my God, stop it now, please.
Um, yeah. That
Them books are
that was
saving
good.
Penelope's ass, okay?
They're saving her because I think that's when you're well read, like, and she only reads romance. Like she was telling Lord Dudley, like she reads a lot of things, but romance is what she always comes back to. And that level of intimacy is always depicted in romance. So I think that is how she's able to know, like, I don't know, she gives me tease that she has, she knows her body a little bit more well than her sisters, if you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah, for
So I
sure.
feel like when it came to the carriage scene, I said, oh, Oh, okay, Penelope. You know what's going on. We're not watching Daphne. Thank God. Because I can't watch another
Daphne. Baby. Daphne, bless her heart. Y'all, bless her heart.
Can't do it. Violet set her up for the fail. Now that's when Violet was 0-1. Because I said Violet, she really had Daphne out there to the point of like, girl, if Daphne didn't write that ship when she did, I fear
all the girls in the town. Nobody told me nothing. Like literally, quite literally. Y'all sending these girls out here. Y'all are orchestrating a season for them to get married every single year, and you are telling them nothing biologically.
Nothing.
Diabolical.
Nothing.
Nasty
I'm
work.
like, unless you got a book like Penelope and Eloise, girl, you're hopeless. Like you are set up for the fall.
Girl, so, so fresh on my brain. I'm thinking about when the Duke told her to touch herself, and she looked so perplexed. It's just like he's like in between.
In between. It was him having to explain it to her, and I know it was supposed to be a moment where I think he low-key like enjoyed it, but I was just like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen actually in my life, is me having to watch him explain it to her, and she's still not getting it. I said, no, ma'am.
At all, but running head first, was gung-ho, excited, first day to get offered up and put a little feather in her hat and go sit in front of the damn queen. She like, yes, it's finally my time, and she has no idea what she's running into.
It's like, it happens, and then what's next? Like we just look at each other, just like, no, like. It was painful in season 1. Like
whole time the men are freaking off all over the place, all over the town with everybody. Like the women get to know nothing, and the men got about 60 bodies by the time you marry them.
60 bodies. You know what's so funny? I was talking to my best friend, and this is very valid, but I think I have to you have to kind of have some cognitive dissonance because it is a fictional world, and you just want to believe that certain things are happening. But my best friend was like, I mean, the kerosene was cute, but I just think this notion of Colin going to town on Penelope is like a little nasty because he was just in the brothel. And I was like, you're right. You're right. No points were made, but I guess I like to think that they're somehow protected, but in real Regency era, the whole point was to get these girls pregnant. So it's just like, I have to believe that there's some Regency era like condom or contraceptive because y'all men are nasty. Y'all
the first scene of him in the brothel, I was just like, none of y'all have no STDs, huh? How is that possible?
My best friend was like, where are the STDs? Because I know a lot of these men have them, and I'm like, you're so right, but I guess
giving them to these poor little girls, like they have no idea what they doing in that bow first time. It has to be happening, but you're right. It has to be a certain level of cognitive dissonance. I swear, seeing Colin in that brothel when he turned back and they're like, okay, same time tomorrow. And he's like, perhaps. I'm like, why don't none of these men have STDs? I literally said that to myself.
I had flashbacks of Anthony, and I was just like, ugh. I was just like, Colin, and there was just another layer of like, Colin, you are not about this life, so this is just not the move anyways. Period. But it's just so funny that you just all have all these men running around, and it's like, y'all are nasty. Actually, it's giving not hygienic. It's giving these girls don't have a chance, really. They being set up by their mamas, and then y'all come in and just completely take advantage of the fact that they're so blind. And I'm just like, thank God, at least you have one Featherington who's like hip to something. Because I'm telling you, that scene with the Featherington girls and Portia, and she's just like, I mean, like, what have you done? Like, and the one just basically says, so we make out, and then he changes his britches. And the look on Portia's face, this is credit to the actress, hilarious. Just like the biting of a knuckle, like, God, what did I do to deserve this?
Literally.
But those moments make the Featherington so likable, and I'm like, we need more of this. It makes me not want to be on Portia's ass. But then Portia turn around and do something, and you're like, I'm back.
Portia
on your
needs
ass.
to stop forging shit. Portia needs to start sewing into these girls before why I oughta, because you got one more time to tell this girl that she don't deserve nothing in life and she ain't never gonna be shit before I'm back on your ass. Portia could be so likable, but she literally goes through life with her ignorance, yes, but also, girl, at some point you done schemed and done certain things and seen the world enough that you are choosing this. Like, I believe that you actually do have a concept of what love is, but you don't believe that it's sustainable, so you are choosing this, and then you are exacting violence upon these girls, and I got problems with you about it.
That is the truth, and I think I do kind of wonder, like, in the moments where you see glimpses from Portia, and I think you see a lot more this season when it comes to Penelope than in the other 2 seasons. But I would like to see, like, what is your, like, how did you get this way? Because I will say the one moment that she did eat, and I was like, you know what, she ate that one little thing, but girl, I'm on your ass, because it's all mixed in with you telling Penelope that she needs to stop striving for what she wants, which is love. But when she said, girl, you know what is romantic? It's security. I said, you know, you ain't never lied, Portia, because these men can't even give us that. So you're right, but it's coming from a place of, like, you're still trying to, at any cost, keep Penelope from dreaming, from, you know, being a girl who wants and is going to fight for the things that she wants with conviction. Like, so it kind of took away from it. But the one line was, the writers ate with that one little thing. They just ate, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Security is romantic. Very romantic.
Very romantic, child. Very.
Angela said, Portia, we're still on her ass. We're on her ass.
Angela said, even when Eloise asked about where the babies come from, nobody answered her. To see Anthony not be there for that question, because he's too busy running up at some random hoe.
Too busy. Yeah, I mean, it's just like these girls. You get reminded every season how like badly they're set up for failure. Like, they don't even have a chance to, like, really have any kind of agency, and that's like the whole point of a time period like this. But it is just like every time we get reminded, like, we get slapped in the face, like, oh my god, y'all don't know nothing.
Not a thing.
Like, poor boo boo kitties, y'all don't know nothing.
Nia Love
and unless
says,
you got a book.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, unless you got a book like Penelope, it's a wrap.
It's a whole wrap. Nia Love says,
wrap.
I think I saw they say that they're going to get into the backstory in part 2 for Lady Danbury and her brother, which I'm excited for.
I did read that as well. So yeah, I think that definitely comes to a head and reveals itself in part 2 for sure. I mean, they would be remiss to not.
Yeah, for real. Mimi Loves Peace said a while ago, Anthony would not give her a dime to start a life with Theo when we were talking about Eloise and Theo. Points were made.
Wait, sorry, repeat that?
Anthony would not give Eloise a dime to start her life with Theo.
I agree.
But then the mama would still been already on the back end, I think, like, doing something to help her. She might not have landed how she would have landed if she had a perfect match that was societal standard, yada, 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 but she wouldn't be thrust about, and they wouldn't be thrown out of the Bridgerton estate like some other people would. Like, the Feathertons are worried about being right now, you know?
And I don't know. As privileged as I feel like Eloise can be, I still do believe there is a sense of there's a screen that is being put up, or there's a screen in between Eloise and the real world for me that I think kind of colors her viewpoint a little bit, and it's why it's easy for her to maybe overlook or not really give credence to Penelope. And I don't feel like they are the same in social standing. They're intellectually the same, yes, but social standing they are not. And
even if she sees them as the same, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, even if you see them as the same, and I think, you know, for all intents and purposes, as a friendship, yes, there's a lot of connectors between the two of them. That is a beautiful thing. But I think in terms of how they are treated and seen, Eloise can show up however she wants and will be good. Penelope, we have seen from season 1, it's not that for her, and it's not. It's not. So I think for Eloise, there is a certain privilege that's there where I feel like I don't know if she would necessarily care if she was cut off by her family. I think she would probably revel in it, to be honest, because that would be the symbol of freedom. So,
because all of them this season seem to be articulating that this season. They all want freedom. Francesca wants freedom. Eloise wants freedom. Everybody wants to give us free. Alexandria said it felt like Colin was afraid of losing his security blanket than the love of his life when Lord Devlin was about to propose. Even his proposal was more of a what Penn does for him than her.
Oh.
Points are made. I think maybe that's also a tinge of it that I didn't get to articulate, but like a lot of it feels like the things that's motivating him are also what she does for him, and I don't like that to this day. To this day.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I don't think I necessarily read it that way. I think the whole point of him coming to terms or coming to realizing his feelings, is due a lot to how she does make him feel, and I don't necessarily know if that's a negative. I think in the sense of, to me, I really saw him come back to himself, or the Colin that I have seen for the past 2 seasons, when he was with Penelope. And I think this idea of like being able to recalibrate with someone who knows you so well, and then understanding from that, oh, this is why this connection is there. This is why whatever was identifiable before for me, this makes a little bit more sense because of how this person, does make me feel. I don't know if I took it as a self-serving as it could have came off. So, I mean, I guess that's why I colored a little bit differently, because it also goes back to me watching clips from Colin and Penelope from seasons 1 and season 2, right before this live, actually. There's a couple moments where I was picking up on, there's some moments that linger a little bit too long. They've always kind of rode the line of like being able to have this friendship that, for all intents and purposes, yes, has navigated in the platonic phase, because yes, Penelope has had feelings for him, but I feel like it becomes not platonic when it's reciprocated on both ends, and we weren't seeing that from Colin, So I feel like they've always rode the line between kind of being like this old married couple, because they're crossing all these lines and they're always in the corner giggling and whispering and unchaperoned, and they're all doing things like a couple courting would be doing. And so I feel like that has lended to their development. So when people say that they feel rushed, I don't necessarily agree, because like it or not, they have been a side plot for like 2 seasons. So I don't know. I just feel like because there's that familiarity there, the way that he kind of, I guess, comes to terms with these feelings, I don't know. I think it's just maybe a little bit different than has been depicted in previous seasons past. So maybe that kind of colors things for me a little bit more as well in terms of what I'm seeing from Colin and Penelope. But I can see that point for sure, and I respect it.
Jasmine asked, did you guys like the way that Colin proposed to Penelope in the show?
Well, this is straight out of the book. This is like book content. So word for word, pound for pound, it's like straight out of the book. So for me, it's fan service for the fans for sure. I mean, I don't know if we're unpacking what that means. I mean, I think for me, it was kind of just this instance of like, she thinks he's taking her up to the crib to like finish what they started. And he's like, oh no, girl, we're not doing any of this business. Like, I'm not courting you. We're skipping that part. Are you going to, like, what's going on? And I don't know. I feel like I don't mind it. I like it because I feel like Colin and Penelope are not the stoic, composed, kind of rigid, almost like put together in a sense leads of seasons past. So I think it's very on brand for them. He's been unhinged and uncomposed for like 2 episodes prior, so I don't I don't think it's out of the norm for them, and I liked it. But like I said,
think that is definitely on brand for them, and that is unfortunate because I don't like it. I don't think I disliked it. I think in the moment it worked and it went along with like all of the like adrenaline that was going and all of that for that particular moment. But when I stop and I think back, I just want so much more for Penelope. I want her to have the profession. I want her to get the like the stuff.
But we haven't gotten there yet, though. To the point.
But like, even for the proposal, it's like we've watched previous, and I'm not just trying to compare, but like seeing previous proposals where people were just like so intentional and like it's happening. So at the end of the day, we arrived at where we needed to get to. But I just I could deal with more in reference to a proposal.
I think it's just, it leads to your point. Like, you want more from it, and I get it.
Yeah.
I definitely, you want more from Colin, the build up, all of that.
So many things are just working out for him, and it just goes, and it just flows, and I'm like, no, fuck that, because you kind of had this girl sitting up in her room dreaming about your ass last however long. Like, get her to parade around a bit. Huh?
I would have liked to see a couple more sexy dreams too. I mean, if we're talking about it, I would have been like, I want to see it, because we only saw one, and I'm like, damn, was that really that one dream really took you out? We know the kiss took him out. He was down bad. He was down bad, which I can. That to me is completely realistic. That kiss would have you sprung for like 2 episodes.
Got it. After. But I need you to be loose and where the hell you are in the middle of the tongue, because you just go back to that kiss real quick. Like, I need that. Give me something. You literally,
like, when you're looking at her, like, yes, you're looking at her, and we can see that it's with intention, but like, zone out a minute. Like, take me there. Take me where you are. Like, just a couple of those. I would have liked to see a couple more of those sexy dreams for sure. Just to be like, oh yeah, when he says I've been dreaming of you and I prefer sleep so that I can find you, I want to be there. Like, I want to see that. So I do get that. Yeah.
All right, now going to the future. Part 2 or next seasons and couples. I don't know the whole Bridgerton lore, so I have no idea. I'm assuming that we're just going down the line with all the Bridgerton kids. I don't know if I'm going to be hanging around that long, but I probably will, because Nia will be my friend and she'll make me watch it.
Always.
I feel like we're getting a twofer right now with Francesca. I don't know if she's going to get a whole other season, because they're giving me plenty if they continue this season. I don't give a good goddamn about Benedict. I swear. I don't know what it is about him. I was with him when he was exploring a little art world and his sexuality or whatever. Now he falling for this cougar lady. I don't even know where this lady came from.
But and see, I think the reason why you don't care is because of how they're writing him, which is the problem here. This is the universal problem. It's hard to invest, because you just said, I mean, you were invested a little bit beforehand, but I just think they're writing him in the same place, and I'm just like, okay, where are we getting to? And
nowhere.
No, it's giving nowhere. And
he's the Bridgerton boy who's getting away with everything, while everybody else got to go through the strife and figure it out and get to a place of knowing themselves. He gets to still be frolicking around. I'm sorry, he gets to rake around just cause.
And it's really given without intention, because if we can pinpoint why the hell Colin's in them brothels, then I don't know why I can't pinpoint what Benedict's got going on. And I love Benedict. I really do. I think it has the potential to be a really great romantic lead, but I just feel like they're if they were going to write him as they have written him the past 2 seasons, they could have kept his side plot, because it's not giving for me. Nowhere do I want to see it. I don't care about this older white lady who is attractive. She's a beautiful older
what happened
white lady,
to him in the Modis? Because wasn't they smashing?
I think she ended it, if I can remember.
Then he got attracted to the little art man that he shamed, and nothing happened with that.
That was like a peek. I don't even know if I could say attractive, but I would say that was a peek into what they could develop if they're, trying to, unpack a sexuality, a bisexual storyline maybe. But I mean, they just kind of was just like, okay, well, next we're gonna have him with somebody else. I don't know. I feel like they've already deviated in terms of the book, so I don't really know either. Like, for all intents and purposes, Benedict was supposed to be the third one, because he's the third book. So them even deviating and making Colin and Penelope the third story, which I understand why, because their story was getting stale too, to a point of like, okay, what are we doing? So people are getting tired of seeing them being the main side plot, but we're not seeing no traction. So they needed to be up next. Benedict's, I feel like, is going to be season 4. I'm not sure. I've read things from the creative saying that there's some subtle hints that lead to who's the next season, but I'm like, where are the hints at? Because it's getting so subtle that I can't spot who's next. So,
I'm concerned about Hyacinth, because she's giving Daphne, but worse.
She is.
She's giving what Daphne probably was as a child. She's just like, oh my God, he's just so dashing. Everybody's dashing, ma'am.
I know she is.
That man, so you don't know that man.
Bless his heart. But yeah, I feel like Benedict's story is next. In terms of Francesca, I think hers is way down the line. I don't even think they're ready to touch hers yet in a full capacity, but they do, obviously introduce the next siblings up. So I think and they could have done her later, but I think making her having us get to know her now, I think is just going to make us even more invested for their story and when it comes time for her. And I don't have any doubts that I will be fully invested.
So you don't think that Francesca's getting married this season?
I think she's going to get married to John Sterling this season, but that also carries into their book because there's a whole, without spoiling it.
Oh, okay.
They have a whole dynamic that leads to something else.
Okay, so they're gonna start to give us life after the marriage, because I feel like once they get married, it'll be over, because our two little examples is they live happily ever after and they just keep fucking on each other and that's it.
If I confirm, then I would be spoiling it for you.
Okay.
So I would say there's more there. But I think they definitely do get married this season. And I think, like I said, that'll carry over until when it's time for Francesca. I think that'll be a nice setup. But I don't think they're going to Francesca's first. Now I could be wrong, because they talking about there's some subtle hints and maybe in part 2, because I didn't see it in part 1. So we'll see. But I don't know if they're going to go in order now. I feel like they need to make Benedict next so we can get his out the way, because it's becoming to the point where people who love him are annoyed and people who didn't really care about him to begin with don't care. And I'm like, I hate it for him because he is a sibling. And I more want to see what's going on with him than Eloise at this moment because of my frustration with Eloise. Yes.
I gotta see.
It's because of my frustration with
Eloise. I gotta see who's gonna catch her ass. I gotta see it.
I think Eloise, I need to see Eloise like step outside of the ton for a minute before she finds her love. If that may, I think there needs to be a gap period where I feel like I can see we make up some grounds that I feel like I've lost with her this season. We got to be aligned again before I see her fall in love with somebody. Because I feel like she's still got things to work
through. We're going to go to Benedict next.
Like individual.
I'm going to be here for the Bridgerton of it all, because I damn sure ain't going to be here for Benedict.
And that is fair, because Bridgerton gives you something to work with. So that's my predictions for the next season. I have a feeling they're going to go back to the order, but then again, I don't know. You just, if Shonda said we doing this season, then we doing this season. So Shonda, the showrunner. So we'll see. That's a little bit harder to predict, but
Playing for Keeps says, is Portia's criticism her way of outwardly showing love to Penelope, or is her criticism stifling, gaslighting to keep her as a spinster daughter who will care for her as she ages?
I think it's both.
I think so too.
Because I think we would be remiss to make it just one dimensional like that. That's not how you and I think, and I don't think that's how anything in Bridgerton is. I think you can see sides of both, but one outweighs the other in such a loud way that
depending on the circumstances.
Depending on the circumstances, yeah.
Because she wasn't singing this when she pushed her ass out there. I was just also like, in watching season 1, I was like, why did she debut all 3 of them at the same time? Them trying to fit through this damn door. I said, Penelope couldn't have waited.
Yeah.
So at that point, you weren't thinking about her spinsterdom and her being with you. You were thinking about which one of these are going to be the thing that helps you prop yourself up in society so that you can have something to say with the other mamas who are doing this thing.
Right. And that's all about financial security as well. I mean, this season, she's so damn adamant because she's forged something again. To Erica's point, she just can't stop forging. We need to keep her away from them quills, child. Get her away from a pen, because she always abuses the pen and paper. But the whole financial security is a big motivator for her, which is why she wants Penelope to marry Lord Debling so bad. So yeah, I think to that question, I think it's both.
Yes. Well, I think that we talked about everything. Did we miss anything, Nia? Any other points that you want to make sure that you put out there in the zeitgeist, because the Bridgerton criticism is not fair?
I just want to say my piece about a couple. I mean, listen, everyone, everyone is entitled to their opinions and to their views. I think, not every season's going to hit for everyone. I think, the beauty of Bridgerton is that, like I said, you can find something in each. I'm very surprised at how satisfied I have been with Colin and Penelope this season. And I'm telling you, this is big praise for me, because I wasn't seeing it for them. But I feel like I've had to reevaluate, like with anything. I've had to recolor my viewpoints. And it's always great to talk to you and Melissa, because sometimes we're going to find ourselves on opposite ends. And I think what you watch and what what resonates with you is valid, and it adds a new color to how I think about things. And it's good to conversate. I think Bridgerton is such a good conversational piece. Like, if you're watching Bridgerton like for the vibes, and that's great, but I just think there's so much to talk about with this show, and it's great material, like just great material. So I think I didn't understand how hard I was gonna be riding on Penelope. I think the season so far is giving me something I feel like I was missing from the love story I was really invested in. So I think a part of me has been deprived. I think that's where a lot of my energy is coming from. Because with Daphne and Simon, they're the first one, right? So they're always going to have a special place in my heart, because they're the first one to jump. Like, they're our reference point, and they did it really well before they really had an emphasis on side plots and it becoming an ensemble and the chemistry. I mean, reggae is NIGGA, okay? Like, we're not gonna lie and act like the Duke is not that dude,
baby.
And
effortlessly.
And Daphne was, the actress played her so well, and their love story is very iconic for so many reasons. But I think that I guess I need a break from the intensity that was Kate and Anthony and Simon and Daphne, because I feel like Kate and Anthony was the couple I preferred even over Simon and Daphne, because I feel like in a lot of ways Simon kind of carried that relationship in certain instances for me, like just his intensity and his
which I think is why I'm obsessed with it. I really think that because men, I don't feel, or I don't see enough men carrying it. So when I see it, baby, hoo.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like, okay, so it's every other one. Colin, what you doing? You supposed to be carrying. We skipped the one. You supposed to be carrying. You ain't carrying. But I can't put that on him.
But I think I think that kind of leads to a point that I've seen, which I think is kind of what I'm getting from you, is that maybe you're just not as sold as Colin being like, because he's supposed to be the romantic lead. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's supposed to be the man romantic lead, and based off of the examples that we've had, it just might not be. I fear it just is not hidden for you in the ways that you need it, and we're so used to it. I think my number one Bridgerton man is gonna have to be King George. Ooh. Even over the Duke, because Queen Charlotte and Queen George's story just hit so different, and it's just such a different depiction of love. It is really sickness and health and love and all, like what you say in those vows. That is King Charlotte and King George's journey, and that I need to rewatch, but it makes me cry like every time I watch their story.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel King George, he's the king. He is the blueprint for the Duke, for Anthony, Colin. That's the example. All you men after the King George, he set the tone. Okay?
But what just came up for me though, Naya, is like Colin, baby, Mr. John Sterling ain't saying a damn thing, and he giving me more by way of romantic lead with his woman now. He ain't even said it. Okay. He didn't said, I got some damn sheet music for you. And I'm sitting here, sets, okay? Like, I know that's right, Francesca, my man.
Listen, if we're ranking men, Colin is not number one. Now, I have come around to Colin. I feel like we can see eye to eye. I am not a Colin apologist. I do not stand Polin. I would say out of all the relationships, they are not going to be the number one. I just I'm in terms of a season though, and how it's making me feel.
It's giving you something
off of the deprivation of season 2, and how I feel like I am very disappointed with how that season turned out. I feel like we could have gotten more. We deserved more. That love story deserved more. They were like Kate and Anthony were the ones I was waiting for. So seeing Colin and Penelope, to me, it's such a palate cleanser for me. Because then when you talk about Simon and Daphne, I do remember that season, but I also remember we was going through it at some point, and I'm just like, I want to go back to happy. I want happiness. Because
the crazy thing about Simon and Daphne though is we were going through, but I was like, I don't give a shit. I'll do this shit over and over again. I don't care. I'll be right here.
And it definitely did. I would say actually what's so crazy is I used to think that season 2 I preferred over season 1, but I think season 1, in terms of the story, and I actually feel like we saw the art of them falling in love, really. Yeah, they're kind of eating over Kate and Anthony because, like I said, I feel like Kate and Anthony surged because of the chemistry. But in terms of the development, you have to look at facts and the development of their story. To me, it was just kind of it was done a disservice, and that's a writing choice. But yeah, I feel like as a season, like we're talking about a love story. Like, I mean, I would definitely. Daphne and Simon are definitely, they're definitely well-rounded in that sense, as opposed to Cantony, which I'm sorry, Cantony, I love y'all so much, but they failed y'all.
I'm gonna always want to see y'all, but and Reggae, like I don't know what the hell we need to do. But you can give us an episode, sir. You can give us an episode.
His representatives, because he acting like he don't want to come back, which I get it. You know, everyone has that right. And maybe it was something with production. Maybe he just felt like, you said one season, so I'm moving on. But I just don't feel like there ain't any reason why we can't just see you for a snippet. This is not a recent, modern times. We can't see you on the FaceTime. Like, we got to physically see you. So can you just pop in real quick with Daphne and just show us how you doing, and then I'll be okay. But
that's it. Just show us how you doing.
That's up to you, Erica. That's up to you, because I just fear we're not gonna get it unless somebody shakes the table.
I'm gonna get the shaking because I didn't rewatch season 1, and now I'm stirred up. Now I'm just like, well, wait, this is what I've been missing. I forgot. Now I remembered.
Listen,
and you're depriving us. Cassidy is great and all. By all means, girl, go ahead and get your head, honey. But I fear if both couples pop out, we'll have a just a ridiculously electric first episode of whatever the hell season it happens.
Or like just all, like if we had like the Colin Penelope together, Kate Anthony, and the Daphne, if we had, I fear that would set the world ablaze, and I would be absolutely here for it. So Reggae,
you mentioned.
Listen. This your number one supporter here. She's trying to tell you to come back because I fear
bring it back.
I have lost hope.
But you mentioned that they wanted that you heard that the writers wanted to keep POLIN going even past their season. I do think that they need that. I think they need a fanfare couple to commit to keep the world colored, because the further we go along, the more you're going to have to reach to create something different that doesn't feel regurgitated from previous seasons. But you're going to also still need to be grounded in that world. Because like I said, I don't give a good goddamn about Benedict. But if POLIN is going to be popping while Benedict is building his story, that's going to help me stay a while and give him a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think there's no world where, these siblings and their spouses like do not interact. So I think it's unrealistic to not have that element. Like, yes, it's one season and done, like, but there can be a continuity with, how they interact after the fact. I mean, like, what happens after you fall in love and get married? Like, there's so much more there. And I'm not saying it has to be the main focal point, but it is important to have those different relationships that you feel comfort and safety in, to be able to lean back on if, the main couple ain't hitting for you. For instance, you're not invested in the main character, but also just to have that comfort of what you've built. And, it's also a relationship with the audience. Like, the creators are building something, but so is the audience watching it. You become connected to these characters and the love stories. So, you want that still. So I feel like they should. Reggae, we would love for you to come back, because I feel like we're so far away from Daphne and Simon at this point that it kind of feels like, dag. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I forget, because they've made such a distance with them. Like, bringing Daphne back last season was cute, but it was just kind of like, okay, Daphne and the baby, but like, you do have a husband. So what is going on? So yeah, I feel like it would be nice to have Reggae back so we could at least see what that looks like now. But I don't know, child. I fear Reggae said no. And I hate it for us.
Which we respect your boundaries and your choice. And listen here, little white ladies on TikTok, leave his ass alone, because what y'all not going to do is come for his talent and his career just because he ain't come back. I want him back, but like not too much, okay? Not too much.
Not too much. We don't want to hear it from y'all, especially. Like, just okay.
Period.
We do respect people's boundaries, and you know, whatever he wants to do. But it would be nice, Reggae, you know, just nicing. I'm asking nicely. Like it would be nice if we could see your face.
Just reading a few more comments. Playing for Keeps says Colin really does come off as best friend, which I feel if he come a little bit harder, it might push through a little bit better. Aside from him being able to stimulate her a little sexually, he gonna have to come harder to get out that best friend land. I agree. And Alexandria said, I do not like season 1, the pregnant black girl trope, and then the forceful insemination by Daphne. It was a no for me.
Yeah, that was always going to be the Daphne move was always going to, I'm surprised they showed it, to be honest. I mean, it is such a major, like in the books, it was controversial then in the books. So I was surprised they went there in the show. So when they did, I was like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to read, child. But it's so hard because I understood where it was coming from.
I understood it, baby. My toxic ass understood it.
It just sucks that that's how it translated, but also that was what he was directly keeping from her, this moment of like connection and intimacy. So finding out, being hip to all of it, I mean, was it impulsive? Was it a boundary cross or was it a violation? Yes. But I think you have to also take into account the context and like the intention of the character. And I had to make space for Daphne, but it was definitely like, ooh. It was a hard one. It was a hard one. Erica said, I'm saying on this because I would have hopped on it too.
No, I have a bunch of questionable ass takes about a bunch of things. So listen, your good sis is not perfect by any means. I still am in the Being Mary Jane crew of like, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily not take the sperm now. I don't know. With the context, not out here just stealing random sperm, but with the context of certain circumstances, it's just like,
Yeah. That was a situation where I understood both sides. Like that one, that was a yeah. That was
definitely. I definitely understood his side, but then also you the same one that wanted to die so that you can get back at your dead ass daddy. So also, sir.
And also, you are taking away her agency in some instances where she does not know this, and you are deliberately taking this moment of connection away from her. You know, just as she's starting to like realize it with you and like start to become sexually liberated, you are directly keeping that from becoming full circle. So, I mean, you find that out as a woman, and it's like, like, wait, I had no say in this
at all.
So.
And maybe I should do something about it. Well, thank you, Naya, my resident all things Bridgerton expert and lovely conversationalist. I always enjoy, even when we're at odds, just unpacking things with you because you're going to make sure I'm on my toes, and it's always going to be just a very interesting, spirited, passionate, if you will, conversation. And that's what I be here for. I cannot do small talk. I cannot do bullshit ass talk. I cannot do talking about nothing just to be damn talking, and it never feels like that when we are unpacking all of the things that we talk about in life. To your point of Bridgerton being a really great thing to spark conversation, we didn't even get into the philosophical things that come up. Like, I think that's also a thing that for me might be working against them, but I think is a benefit to the series as a whole. Because I wasn't fully invested in the main love story, I started to think about the world a lot more. And I was thinking about all of the social commentary that I feel like it's speaking to and the philosophical things, like even just women in this particular society and honestly kind of how it's becoming an allegory for where we're regressing to in our modern day. Like, this is not necessarily one-to-one directly where we're going back to, but with us losing rights and seeing women need men in this way, and all these decisions are based off of what these men think is right or think they should do. It's so interesting to me in living in our modern world and all of the things that we're currently experiencing. And a lot of those things, like I've started to like audit and think about a lot of that while watching this season specifically. And that didn't really come up for me in the previous 2 seasons. So I agree with you that Bridgerton is just a really great piece of media, great piece of art that is doing a lot more than just entertaining.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. In terms of the season, I'm just excited for part 2. I'm itching for part 2. I want to see how it ends. and it's interesting because maybe even my thoughts will change, or not change, but maybe they're gonna take new form. Obviously, when you see the rest of it, it's we only have, like I said, one piece of the puzzle. I think they're leaning into the second story of the season, which I think is also kind of masterful how they've been able to kind of do, when it comes to Colin and Penelope, the two for one, where now this is a completely new challenge and new element of this relationship. Now they're together, but like there's something else right around the corner. So I'm very interested to see how they come full circle with certain storylines and how they end this season. And I'm very always excited and on my toes for the future, because I think this show has a very long future. That much is clear. So I always love the conversations, because it's always a good time. We can agree to disagree, or we can get to a middle ground, and it's okay. The earth will not break because me and Eric do not agree on every single thing. Like, we don't have to be disrespectful. We don't have to force each other to see things from our perspective. I think that's the beauty of Erica has so many different experiences than mine, and those experiences color how you watch things and how you consume things. So
for sure,
I think we need more constructive conversations and not talking for the sake of talking, because I'm sure we would get a lot farther in life. But
that's a whole other conversation for a whole nother live. I hope that you guys enjoyed this live. If you're catching this on the rewatch, still feel free to drop a comment and share your thoughts, respond. We're over 3.5 hours. Lord, I didn't know that we was gonna go this long.
So
bless
sorry,
your heart,
guys.
Naya. Bless your heart for riding with me, because apparently Erica is just the queen of damn long ass lives, and y'all be with me. Like, I don't understand it, but we here. But if you're watching this on replay, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you again to Naya and Melissa for joining me for this wonderful Bridgerton conversation. And we will be back to talk about part 2 upon its release. Shout out to Cendrika and Shanoa again, who rewatched season 1 with me. We were in Discord last night. If y'all popped in the Discord, so listen, y'all should be in the damn Discord. Because if you were just, randomly popping in the Discord, y'all would have seen us last night up for hours. We watched like the first 6 episodes of episode 1, and I think I fell asleep at like 7 a.m. It was wild.
Missed that. I would have loved that. I love new Bridgerton victims.
Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video. This delay is crazy.